Your eyes flit to the phone without permission. A notification blinks like a tiny lighthouse and your chest tightens, a micro jerk in your fingers, a quiet drag in your breath. The tab you meant to read turns blurry at the edges. You scroll, skim, hop, and an hour slides away like watered-down tile. Your jaw is slightly clenched. Your shoulders float toward your ears. Sound familiar? Here's the promise. In the next 60 seconds, you'll learn how to command your focus on cue, using your body, your attention system, and a simple sequence that makes deep work feel less like force and more like gravity pulling you into the right thing. Start with this: your brain isn't broken, it's protective. The reticular activating system, the tiny gatekeeper at the base of your brain, is built to decide what gets in. Loud, novel, emotional, it opens the gates. Boring but important, it often slips past unnoticed. That's not failure, that's the factory default. Your job is to teach that gatekeeper what counts as signal. You do that through rhythm, naming, and repetition. This is the difference between chasing motivation and training a response. When you stop wrestling and start instructing, the noise calms because the system has a script. Feel the air pass cool across your nostrils. Let your exhale lengthen by 1 count. Notice the slight warmth in your palms, the weight of your body on the chair, the soundscape around you, hum of an AC, a distant car, maybe a bird outside the window. You're not wasting time by noticing. You're priming the focus circuitry by settling the amygdala, returning blood to the prefrontal cortex. This is the biology of command. We'll use it now. The first framework is called the focus field. Imagine a clear rectangle around the one target that matters for the next sprint. The field has edges and a center. The edges are the rules, the center is the work. Here's how you build it in 60 seconds. Step 1. Breathe 4-4-6, inhale for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 6, 3 rounds. That downshift tampers the stress signal. Step 2. Name the target in 7 words or fewer. Draft intro paragraph on climate email. Step 3. Define the boundary. No tabs, no phone, 30 minutes, 1 doc. Step 4. Place a physical anchor inside the field. A sticky note, a timer, a glass of water. Step 5. Say the cue out loud, entering the field. You are now using ritual to speak the language of the RAS. Repetition turns it into a gate. A story: in a fluorescent conference room, Amal sat with a product brief that had to be coherent by noon. Slack messages tapped the glass of her attention like hail. She felt heat rise at the back of her neck. Her breath got shallow, her knee bounced. Instead of wrestling, she summoned the focus field. 3-4-4-6 breaths, eyes on one sentence, outline the 3 user journeys. She put her phone in her bag and closed the door. She scribbled the cue on a sticky note, entering the field, and started a 25-minute timer. 10 minutes in, the urge to check Slack flared like a spark. She placed her palm on the desk, felt the cool laminate, named the sensation, cool, flat, here, and continued. At noon, she had a lucid brief. Her colleagues noticed. She didn't become magically disciplined. She became a person who knows how to cue the gatekeeper. Feel your tongue rest at the roof of your mouth. Unclench the teeth. Drop the shoulder blades down and back 2 millimeters. You're installing microsensory markers because attention loves a body it trusts. The science is simple. When your exhale is longer than your inhale, the vagus nerve signals safety. When you label a task in plain language, your prefrontal cortex knows where to aim. When you ritualize entry, the RAS learns the pattern and filters accordingly. We confirm the biology by action, not by belief. The second framework is the single-target sprint. Multitasking is a myth. Task switching creates a cognitive tax called the attentional blink, a brief period when neither task gets full resources. The sprint sidesteps the blink by giving your system one target, one window, and a fast reset. The steps are simple. Pick one narrow output you can see on paper or screen. Set a timer for 25 or 50 minutes. Keep a scratch pad beside you, a tiny notepad where you quickly park any thought that tries to hijack your attention. When the timer ends, stand up for 2 minutes, look at something far away to relax your eye muscles, and breathe 4-4-6 once. Then decide, continue or close. This isn't a productivity trick. It's a way to cap the emotional load so your brain doesn't associate deep work with trapped discomfort. Picture your hands. Notice the mild dryness of your knuckles or perhaps the faint pulse at your wrist. Drop your gaze softly to one point in front of you. Let the periphery blur. When you narrow your visual field, you send a signal, target acquisition. Hunters have known this forever, so have musicians. Your body posture becomes a message to your mind. Now we dive. A second story. Late at night, Lena, a medical student, sat in her kitchen with flashcards and a storming brain. Every few minutes, she'd reach for her phone to just check the time, and then she'd be on a short video about someone else's perfect study routine. She felt a heaviness dead center in her chest, like a paperback book resting on the sternum. She ran the single target sprint, 1 chapter summary, 25 minutes, scratch pad at her right. 10 minutes in, a thought erupted, text your friend back, and her hand drifted. She caught it, parked the thought, text Sam after on the pad, and returned to the paragraph. By the second sprint, the heaviness had thinned into steady warmth. At midnight, she closed the book with a small smile. She didn't change her life in a night. She changed the direction of her attention in bursts. That's enough. Now the micro-practice that hooks all of this, RAS programming in 3 words. Before you begin a sprint, write 3 words that define the quality you want in your mind state. Calm, precise, patient or bold, curious, steady. Repeat them twice under your breath while looking at the work area. You are giving the gatekeeper tags. Over a week, you'll notice your eyes pull more quickly to what matches the tags and away from what doesn't. This is not magic, it's training. The same way you can't help noticing your name in a noisy room, you can train your attention to notice the texture of deep work. Your breath is quieter now. The room has a temperature, either cool air on your forearms or a slow warmth at your lower back. There may be a slight ache where you hold your phone. Let the hand open and rest on the desk. The feeling of contact is a lighthouse. Come back when you drift. Let's address a quiet friction, the belief that you need to feel like focusing before you can focus. That belief keeps people at the surface. Neuroplasticity respects action more than mood. When you act first, breath, name, boundary, your mood follows the structure. This is the 90-second weather rule. Weather moves across the sky of your mind. Gusts of boredom, clouds of restlessness, sunbursts of clarity. For 90 seconds after you initiate the focus field, let the weather do what it does without changing your behavior. Set the timer, start the work, and observe. Sensation in the belly, label it. Buzz in the thigh, label it. The labeling occupies the narrative brain just long enough for the deeper circuits to route resources to the target. Within that minute and a half, the wind usually drops. If it doesn't, you still keep the structure. You're not the weather. You are the awareness watching the weather. A third framework for moments of spike urge, the Anchor 3 protocol. Choose 3 anchors you can deploy in under 10 seconds, 1 breath cue, 1 physical cue, 1 verbal cue. Breath cue, 4-4-6 once. Physical cue, touch the edge of the desk, trace its corner, feel texture. Verbal cue, back to center. Use all 3 rapidly when you feel the tug. The triple anchor interrupts the stimulus response chain at 3 levels: physiological, sensory, and linguistic. After a week, the protocol becomes automatic, like tapping your pockets for keys. Taste the faint metallic aftertaste of water if there's a glass nearby. Hear the slight whir of a fan. Smell whatever lives in your space: paper, soap, the ghost of coffee. These tiny check-ins are not distractions. They are tethers to the present moment, the only place focus can exist. Your mind learns safety through repeated returns. Another story. On a Tuesday, Jordan, a startup founder, had to write investor updates. He dreaded it so much his stomach tightened as soon as he opened the doc. He decided to run a 50-minute single-target sprint with Anchor 3. He labeled the task in 7 words: draft update with metrics and next steps. He placed his phone in another room, set the timer, and whispered, calm, clear, candid. 15 minutes in, a swell of "this is boring" rose like heat from a sidewalk. He pressed 2 fingers to the wooden desk edge, feeling a ridge and a tiny splinter. He breathed 446, back to center. When the timer rang, he had 2 coherent pages and a calmer stomach. He learned that boredom is not an enemy, it's an untrained signal. The RAS had started to understand that metrics matter. Here's a drill to end this session: the 5-minute gate. Pick a microscope-sized task you've been avoiding: opening a spreadsheet, naming a file, writing the first sentence. Build the focus field: 3 breaths, 7-word name, boundary, physical anchor, cue. Sprint for 5 minutes only. When done, stand, look 10 meters away, inhale for 4, exhale for 6. Ask one question: did I keep the boundary? If yes, the gate learned. If no, change one variable: shorter sprint, clearer name, phone farther away, and try again. Mastery is iteration. The RAS is patient when you are consistent. Your identity shift begins here. You are not a distracted person trying to become focused. You are a focused person who has been feeding the wrong gatekeeper. You are the one who chooses what matters and teaches your brain to follow. You are the awareness, not the emotion, and certainly not the ping. When the world throws static, you build your field and step inside. Over time, the world learns not to knock as loudly. Notice the breath again. There's more space in the ribs. The jaw is softer. The tongue rests heavy and easy. If your attention just wandered to a different tab in your mind, return as if guiding a friend by the elbow, gentle, decisive, forward. That's the tone, not a drill sergeant, a seasoned guide. One last piece of science to anchor your confidence. The default mode network hums when you ruminate. The task-positive network hums when you engage. The 446 breath begins the switch. The 7-word naming aims the beam. The boundary holds the power. The physical anchor keeps you in the cockpit. Repeating this sequence 15 minutes a day for 2 weeks strengthens synapses like a path worn through tall grass. Soon you just find yourself on the trail. If you want to start now, close your eyes for one breath. See the tasks end like a photograph: the saved file, the sent email, the closed notebook. Feel the small satisfaction rise in your chest like warm tea. Open your eyes, write your 7-word target, set the timer, whisper your 3-word tags, place your hand on the desk. Enter the field. When you drift, anchor 3. When you finish, stand and see the distant point. You are teaching your attention to trust you. Tomorrow we'll widen the system: environment design, attention diet, and the art of saying no without burning bridges. For now, keep the drill tight. Focus field, single target sprint, anchor 3, the rest will come. You don't need more willpower, you need fewer collisions. Focus is not just what you do with your mind, it's what your space and your inputs do to your mind. Today you'll rewire both. Think of this as scaffolding around a building you already own. With the right scaffolding, the work rises straight and clean, fewer slips, fewer rescues. The biology behind it is straightforward. Your brain burns energy every time you inhibit a cue. Fewer cues, fewer burns. We're going to set up 2 frameworks, so the choice to dive deep becomes the easiest choice in the room. The first is called Environment Autopilot. Autopilot means the room does 90% of the focusing for you before you sit down. You'll build it with 3 moves: the dock, the tools, and the trapdoor. The dock is the exact place where deep work starts, already staged. The tools are the handful of objects that keep you in flow, visible, and within reach. The trapdoor is where temptation falls through and doesn't return until you call it. When you create these 3, you are whispering to your reticular activating system, this is where signal lives. Repeated environment cues reduce the need for internal negotiation. Your prefrontal cortex can spend juice on making, not fencing. Stand and look at your workspace. Feel your feet in your shoes or the coolness of the floor against your soles. Notice the temperature by your ears, the tug of gravity on your shoulders, the small sound in the room, maybe a distant appliance, maybe street noise. Take 1-4-4-6 breath. Now pick the dock. It might be a wooden desk corner, the left side of your kitchen table, or the library carrel facing a blank wall. The dock must have nothing on it that competes with your current target. Not yesterday's mail, not a pile of pens. One surface, one target. Tape a tiny dot at the edge to mark it if you want, a navigator's star. That dot becomes a visual anchor your attention learns to obey. The tools keep only what invites forward movement. For most people, that's a water glass, a timer, the scratch pad from yesterday, and the one device or notebook you actually use for the current task. Everything else goes out of the field. If you write by hand, keep one pen. If you code, keep one keyboard. If you study, keep the chapter list visible and nothing more. Put your phone out of sight, not face down, out of the room. Out of sight reduces the micro spikes of cortisol that arise each time you inhibit the urge to check. The science isn't punitive, it's merciful. Your inhibition budget is finite, protect it. The trapdoor, give every distraction a place to fall through. Buy a small box, call it the trapdoor box. During work sprints, anything that doesn't serve the target goes in. Headphones if you don't need them. Chargers that curl like snakes and whisper, "Tidy me." Even sentimental objects that pull you into remembering. When the sprint begins, the trapdoor closes. After, open it and retrieve what you actually need. This is not decluttering theater, it's attentional hygiene. Minimal friction in, minimal friction out. A story. On a Thursday morning, Neha, a designer with 2 kids and an open-plan office, kept losing the first 90 minutes to social ping-pong. Her heart rate was normal, but the agitation lived like static at the skin's surface. She built environment autopilot in one lunch break. She pushed her desk 6 inches so her dock faced a blank pillar. She moved her novelty items, the bobblehead, the tiny cactus, into the trapdoor box. She put a glass carafe and a tumbler at arm's reach and curated a 2-item tool line, notebook, pen. She taped a barely visible dot to the desk's left edge. She made an agreement with herself. When she touched the dot, she entered the field. Next morning, co-workers still chatted, the office still buzzed, but her body remembered the docking sequence: touch dot, breathe once, open dock. In 3 days, she shipped a prototype that had been stuck for a month. The room didn't get quieter, her channel did. Feeling your own channel now, notice the cool air along your nostrils. Let your exhale slope a little longer. Roll your shoulders back an inch. Sense the fabric sliding against your skin. These micro-sensations are permission slips to the nervous system. We are safe, we are here. Safety frees resources for precision. Environment Autopilot has one maintenance ritual. The desk reset 120. When you finish a sprint, spend exactly 2 minutes returning the dock to ready. Water glass washed and refilled. Scratch pad aligned. Timer zeroed. Trapdoor box closed. You are leaving a breadcrumb trail for the next version of you who will arrive tired, doubtful, or tempted. They won't have to decide whether to begin. The room decided already. The habit loop is cue right arrow, routine right arrow, reward. Your cue is visual order. Your routine is sit and start. Your reward is the clean click of traction and the small warmth in your chest as words or numbers appear where blankness was. You are pairing clarity with a physical space until the pairing becomes automatic. Now the second framework, the attention diet. This is a 7-day reset that teaches your RAS to prioritize deep, boring-looking signals over bright, empty ones. We're not moralizing your media, we're right-sizing it. The brain's reward system is tuned to novelty and unpredictability. Short-form feeds optimize for those levers. The attention diet shifts the novelty to your work by shrinking the ambient noise outside your field. The diet has 3 pillars: the signal ledger, the temptation tax, and the boundary sandwich. The signal ledger is a simple daily check-in where you write 2 columns, signals and noise. Signals are inputs that improve your thinking or deepen your project. Noise is anything that hijacks your attention without giving it back. Each evening, jot 3 items on each side. Signals, Andrej Karpathy's talk, textbook chapter, colleagues' feedback. Noise, algorithmic feed, comment thread that went nowhere, half-hour of reaction videos. You're not shaming, you're measuring. Your RAS loves counts. When you see noise outnumber signal, the gatekeeper takes note. Over days, your eyes begin to seek signal because you've told them what counts. The temptation tax is a delay you apply before any low-quality input. 10 slow breaths, then decide. Some days you'll still indulge. Fine. The tax teaches your nervous system that you, not the cue, control the opening of the gate. The delay blunts dopamine spikes and collapses the Pavlovian loop. After a week, you will notice the edges smoothing. The compulsion weakens because it keeps running into a toll booth. The boundary sandwich is your script for saying no without burning bridges, because the people around you are part of your attention diet. The sandwich has 3 slices: appreciative opening, clear boundary, forward path. I appreciate the invite. This week I'm protecting 2 deep work blocks in the mornings. Could we catch up after 3 on Thursday? This keeps connection while defending your field. Your identity hears you say it, and something clicks. I am someone worth scheduling around. Pause and feel your hands. Are your palms a touch warmer than the backs? Can you sense a faint pulse in your thumbs? The sensation is local, unambitious, and real. Your attention, when placed on something real, gains weight. Heavy attention doesn't float toward trivia as easily. Another short story. Marco, a graduate student, lived on group chats and felt guilty for wanting out. His brain felt like a crowded bus, hot and loud, even when nothing was happening. He decided to run the attention diet for 7 days. He set his phone to grayscale and moved his social apps to a hidden folder called Later. He created the signal ledger in a pocket notebook. He added the temptation tax. If he reached for a feed, he had to breathe through his nose for 10 counts and look 10 meters away before deciding. He texted his friends the boundary sandwich. I'm heads down on comps this week. I'll be quiet till Saturday, then I'm yours. Day 1 was itchy, his jaw tight, his right knee bouncing. Day 3 felt like drinking cold water. On day 5, his mind went quiet at the edges. The bus emptied. He finished a chapter he'd been afraid of. Saturday came. He rejoined the group feeling cleaner. He wasn't antisocial. He was a steward of his attention. Biology check. Why grayscale? Because color is a novelty amplifier that prods dopamine, and removing it reduces urges without drama. Why the 10-breath temptation tax? Because it recruits your vagal brake, turning down the fight-or-flight drift that often masquerades as curiosity. Why the signal ledger? Because the RAS learns categories by repetition. You're not fighting the brain, you're giving it better defaults. Bring your awareness to your face. Let your forehead smooth, the muscles around your eyes soften. Notice the air on your upper lip. The more you can feel the present, the less you chase the pseudo-present of endless updates. You don't need to know everything, you need to know what you're doing. Here's a micro-practice to weld environment, autopilot, and the attention diet, the door frame breath. Each time you cross into your workspace, pause with a hand on the frame. Inhale for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 6. Whisper your 3 RAS tags, maybe clean, curious, steady, then step in. The doorway becomes a neural switch. Over time, your nervous system learns that crossing that threshold equals focus safety. You don't whip yourself into working, you pass through a ritual gate. And another, the inbox island. Email and messages aren't the ocean, they're an island you visit on purpose. Decide on 2 visiting hours. Outside those hours, close the docked app. Put a sticky note on your laptop bezel, inbox at 11 and 4. When the urge to check surges, pay the temptation tax and jot the urge on your scratch pad. Zygarnik effect, the brain's tendency to keep unfinished tasks alive, will try to use your inbox as a relief valve. The scratch pad captures that pressure so you can release it when the bell rings. This is chemistry applied to kindness. A quick detour into saying no when it's your boss or a client. Respect the power dynamic, but still use the sandwich. Start with alignment. I want the deliverable to be solid. State the boundary with a reason anchored to quality. To keep the analysis tight, I'm holding 2 protected blocks tomorrow morning. Offer a visible alternative. If it's urgent to review earlier, I can send a bullet summary at 3. You're not resisting work, you're resisting chaos. Most leaders reward the person who protects the conditions for excellence. If you get pushback, use the 3-option frame. Would you prefer I do a quick pass now, a deeper pass by tomorrow afternoon, or we adjust scope? Options shift people from impulse to choice. Check in with your lower back against the chair. Adjust 1 inch so your sit bones feel even. Let your jaw hang a fraction and then close lightly. These tiny calibrations tell your lizard brain that you are not in a sprint for survival. When you stop bracing, attention can travel farther without tripping. Environment Autopilot turns your workspace into a copilot. The attention diet turns your wider world into a quiet corridor. Together they create traction without drama. Tomorrow, you'll still have pings, you'll still have invitations, but you won't be a leaf in their stream. You'll be a person with a dock that pulls, tools that support, a trapdoor that protects, and a diet that makes your best work louder than the static. Let's make it tactile with a drill called deep work docking. Tonight, run a desk reset 120. Lay out tomorrow's target on the dock. First page or first file open, title typed, cursor blinking ready. Put your water glass filled, timer device charged, trapdoor box closed. On a sticky note, write your 3 RAS tags and the time of your first sprint. Before bed, place your phone in another room with your alarm set. When you wake, cross the door frame, breathe once, read the sticky, and begin a 25-minute single-target sprint. Pay the temptation tax if any stray urge surfaces. After, visit Inbox Island if it's within your window. If not, scribble urges on your scratch pad and return to the dock. Do this for 3 mornings. You will feel the click. Identity shift, again and again. You are not someone white-knuckling against the world's noise. You are a designer of signal. You build rooms that make excellence probable and diets that make depth delicious. You are the awareness that chooses the channel, not the channel. People around you will notice the calm. They'll call it discipline. You'll know it's architecture. One more sensory pass to lock it in. Feel the weight of your eyelids. Listen for the farthest sound you can perceive, maybe traffic, maybe wind, maybe the low thrum of a building. Then listen for the nearest sound, the faint scratch of fabric when you shift, the whisper of your breath. Let those 2 distances exist at once. That's what good focus feels like, a wide, calm awareness with a bright beam in the center. The beam goes where you aim it because you prepared the ground. If there's resistance from within, but I like my feeds, but I'll miss out, treat it like weather. 90 seconds, observe, label, return. FOMO is a body sensation plus a story. The sensation you can breathe with. The story you can rewrite. Missing out on noise is how you hear your own signal. The world's parade keeps marching. You don't have to march with it to make something beautiful. By the end of the week, your dock will feel like a sanctuary. Your inbox will feel like an island. Your feeds will feel optional. And your mind will feel like a place you can trust. You'll sit, touch the dot, breathe, and fall into work as if down a well where the water is clear and cold and yours. You have the dock. You've cleaned the channel. Now we turn friction into fuel. Most people confuse hard with heavy. Hard can be light when it's clear. Heavy is what happens when your brain holds a foggy picture and a loud alarm at the same time. Today you'll learn to make hard things light by shrinking the unknowns until your nervous system stops bracing. You'll also build immunity to the 2 most common focus thieves, mid-sprint confusion and human interruptions. This is where deep work stops being a mood and becomes a method you can trust on grumpy mornings. Start with the science bridge. Your brain hates undefined beginnings. When a task is a blurry blob, your amygdala whispers threat and steals blood from your prefrontal cortex. That is why you can scroll for an hour and still feel tired. Inhibition without traction is expensive. We're going to steal that blood back with a simple framework called Task Alchemy. The name is fancy, the moves are plain. You take a vague boulder and dissolve it into pebbles your hand can actually lift. Each pebble gets a verb, an output, and a finish line you can see. When your reticular activating system sees verbs and edges, it relaxes the alarm and grants you entry. Feel your seat under you. Sense the slight downward pull where your thighs meet the chair. Notice your tongue resting a little heavy in your mouth. Let one slow exhale drag longer than the inhale. You're telling your body, no saber-tooth here. Safety first, clarity second, momentum follows. Task Alchemy has 3 passes: sketch, slice, script. Sketch the whole in one messy line, write the grant proposal for the lab. Slice into 3 to 5 pebbles, collect last year's results, draft Ames page, email Dr. Chen for budget. Script the very first minute of the first pebble, open drive, create folder grant V1, paste last year's results, rename files. The script is micro. It's not a plan for the universe, it's a plan for 60 seconds. That minute is the ignition. The reason it works is neurochemical. A micro win gives you a squirt of dopamine that your RAS tags as signal. The tag makes the next minute easier. You are not pushing a boulder, you are rolling pebbles downhill. A story: in a narrow apartment, evening light on the floorboards, Priya stared at a blank page labeled Thesis Introduction. Her heart beat a touch faster, a dull pressure behind her eyes. She had spent 2 days tidying her desk and avoiding the sentence. Tonight she tried Task Alchemy. Sketch, write intro, slice, collect 5 key papers, list 3 big problems, draft opening paragraph, summarize contributions. Script, open Zotero, star 5 papers I already know, copy abstracts into a note called Intro Pile. She set a 25-minute timer and ran the script. 3 minutes in, the pressure behind her eyes softened into warm focus. She wasn't wrestling an idea, she was moving a cursor. By the end of the sprint, she had the pile, 3 problem bullets in a note, and a single ugly sentence. Ugly counts. The boulder had turned to gravel. Check your jaw, open and close it slightly, then let it meet with less force. Feel the skin on your forearms, cool or warm. Notice the faintest environmental hum. The beam of your attention brightens when the background calms. These check-ins are not distractions, they are calibration. Now the second framework, rhythm ramp. The myth is that you should launch into a 50-minute sprint cold and heroic. The nervous system prefers ramps. Rhythm ramp is a 3-2-1 warm-up that shifts you from scattered to single channel in 6 minutes. 3 minutes of mechanical prep. Files open, water poured, timer set, scratch pad ready. 2 minutes of preview, skim the last paragraph, glance at the outline, whisper your 3 RAS tags. 1 minute of ignition, run the first 60 seconds of your script from Task Alchemy. You begin working before you feel like working. By the end of the minute, feeling catches up. If you want to make the ramp stick, anchor it to music without lyrics or a gentle soundscape. Play the same track every time you begin. The RAS loves associations. After a week, the first 10 seconds of the track will feel like your attention is already stepping onto rails. You are Pavlov, but friendlier. Sensory beat again. Let your belly soften on the exhale. Place one palm flat on the desk and feel the surface. Wood grain, plastic, cool glass. Trace a small circle with your fingertips. That small loop is your "I'm here" signal. Come back to it when the urge to flee spikes. The third framework is for the world that doesn't care about your sprint, interruption immunity protocol. This is not about hiding from people. It's about building agreements that protect your highest value windows while preserving relationships. The protocol has 3 layers: pre-commitment, live deflection, and graceful repair. Pre-commitment is your broadcast before the day begins. Put a block on your shared calendar titled Heads Down, 9:30-11. Put a small visible card on your desk that says Deep Work till 11, ring at 11:05. People respect what you state clearly. Live deflection is your script when someone knocks. Stand to meet them, standing signals briefness, smile and say, "I'm in a focus block to finish thing." Can I message you at 11:05 or is there a real fire? 9 out of 10 times they'll say later is fine. If it is a fire, you choose consciously to switch. Graceful repair is the follow-through. At 11:05, you message as promised. The relationship strengthens because you do what you say, and your identity learns that you can be both boundaried and generous. A story within an office. Tom, an analyst, worked 2 desks away from a manager who loved to think out loud. Tom's chest tightened whenever he saw the manager stand. Waves of scattered questions would swallow his morning. He tried interruption immunity. He added focus blocks to the team calendar, printed a small card for his monitor, and rehearsed the live deflection line aloud. The first morning, the manager ambled over anyway. Tom stood, hand on desk, and delivered the line. The manager paused, looked at the card, and chuckled, right, later. That afternoon, Tom sent a crisp summary at 4:00 as a repair. The next day, the manager veered to someone else first. Tom didn't become rude, he became reliable. Boundaries don't push people away, they teach them how to meet you. Biology check. Why do talking interruptions feel so costly? Because every time you switch, your brain incurs a reload tax, reactivating task rules in working memory. That tax is small once, but exponential with repetition. The immunity protocol reduces reloads by clustering human contact before or after sprints and by making the switch intentional rather than reflexive. Intentionality equals lower cortisol. Lower cortisol equals longer runway. Feel your breath again, cooler on the inhale, warmer on the exhale. Drop your shoulder blades back and down just a hair. Let your eyes soften but keep them on one spot. Soft eyes, sharp aim. It's a paradox your body understands. Let's tie Task Alchemy and Rhythm Ramp with a micro practice called the one-line start. When you sit at the dock, write one opening line that is so trivially small it feels almost silly. Open dataset. Write headline, list 3 risks. Then start the timer and do only that line. The line is the match. The fire is the work that follows. If your mind rebels, this is too small, whisper, I win by starting. Tiny is not timid, tiny is precise. Your RAS wants a first step it can see. Another story, Eli, a software engineer, dreaded writing tests. His chest felt tight, fingers cold. He'd procrastinate by refactoring unrelated code. He decided on the one-line start, write test file name. He ran Rhythm Ramp, 3 minutes setting up, 2 minutes skimming, 1 minute writing the file name. The absurd smallness made his shoulders drop. He wrote the first failing test, then the second. An hour later, he had coverage. The tightness had melted into a clear hum behind his ribs. The brain likes movement more than it likes big promises. Now we'll handle mid-sprint confusion, the moment you whisper, "What now?" and reach for novelty. Use the 90-second wayfinding. When you feel lost, don't leave. Set a 90-second timer. In the first 30 seconds, read the last thing you wrote or the last calculation you ran. In the next 30, ask one question out loud. What is the smallest next proof of progress? In the last 30, write that question as a single actionable line on your scratch pad and do the first 10 seconds of it. Most fog lifts with this small triangulation. If it doesn't, you invoke a tactical retreat. Stop the sprint, walk for 2 minutes, and restart with a fresh 3-2-1 ramp and a refined script. Retreat is not failure, it's oxygen. Taste whatever lingers in your mouth, mint, coffee, plain water. Hear the closest sound, the chair creak, your breath. Then hear the farthest sound you can detect. Holding both distances makes your attention elastic. Elastic attention resists snapping when the world tugs. Some people ask about motivation. What if I don't care today? The answer is architectural. Care follows clarity and contact. Clarity from Task Alchemy, contact from beginning. When your fingers touch the work and your eyes land on edges, your limbic system gets updated data. This is doable. That update is a felt sense, warmth in the sternum, a slight easing around the eyes. You're not forcing belief. you're offering evidence. Let's rehearse a full arc. You finish your coffee. You stand at the doorframe, inhale 4, hold 4, exhale 6. You whisper your 3 tags, clean, curious, steady. You touch the doc's dot. 3 minutes prep, files, water, timer, scratch pad. 2 minutes preview, skim, glance, tag. 1 minute ignition, run the first scripted 60 seconds. You enter a 25-minute single target sprint. 5 minutes in, a message pings on the corner of your screen. You pay the temptation tax, 10 slow breaths, eyes to the far wall, and log, reply at 11, inbox island. You continue, 12 minutes in, fog rises. You run the 90-second wayfinding, pull one actionable line and do its first 10 seconds. The fog thins. 24 minutes in, someone walks toward you. You stand, smile, deliver the immunity line. They nod and walk away. The bell rings. You stand, look 10 meters away, breathe once, and either continue or close. This is not a perfect morning. This is an engineered one. Identity shift, again. You are not someone who occasionally gets lucky with focus. You are a builder of ramps and breaker of boulders. You are the awareness that chooses a script over a story, a step over a sigh. When confusion comes, and it will, you meet it with 90 seconds of wayfinding, not 90 minutes of escape. When people come, and they will, you meet them with clear timing, not porous attention. You are the person others trust for clean work because you trust your own method. Pause and notice your hands again. Maybe there's a tiny vibration in your fingertips or a pleasant heaviness in the palms. That's your body registering readiness. The more often you notice it and then begin, the faster it will appear next time. Bodies love patterns that reduce waste. One more small tool to close the loop. The focus contract. It's a one-sentence agreement you write before a sprint that pairs effort with grace. I will keep my boundary for 25 minutes. If I drift, I will return gently within 10 seconds. The contract isn't punishment, it's direction. Returning gently matters. Harsh returns teach your nervous system that work equals threat. Gentle returns teach it that work equals sanctuary with firm edges. Sanctuary invites you back. A final vignette. A cafe at noon, steam ghosts rising from cups, plates clinking. Another Maya, not our earlier one, needed to outline a talk. The noise felt like sand in her ears. She considered leaving. Instead, she made a focus contract and ran a silent rhythm ramp at the table. 3 minutes laying out her tools. 2 minutes skimming last notes. 1 minute scripting. Write title, write 3 beats. Halfway through, a friend waved. Maya smiled, pointed to the card she'd placed, deep work till 12:30 text, and held her palm down on the table for one breath. Her friend gave a thumbs up and left her. At 12:31, Maya sent a text and an outline photo. She didn't become a hermit. She became legible to herself and others. Feel the chair again. Feel your spine lengthen by a millimeter. Let your eyes find one object you like in this room. A plant, a pen, a patch of light. Notice a detail, a curl of leaf, a scratch in plastic, a dust mote. That detail is the grain of reality. Work lives in the grain. Here's your drill for the next 24 hours. Pick one boulder you've been avoiding. Run Task Alchemy, sketch, slice, script. Run Rhythm Ramp 3-2-1. Sign a focus contract on a sticky note and place it at the dock. Build a tiny interruption immunity broadcast, calendar block and desk card. Do 3 25-minute sprints with 90-second breaks and a single visit to Inbox Island. At the end, open your signal ledger and count what changed. The count will not be perfect, it will be proof. Proof rewires belief. You are not behind, you are beginning to own the levers. The world will still be bright and loud, your mind will still make weather, but you will carry ramps, scripts, and small sentences that turn storm into movement. You will open the document, touch the desk, breathe once, and move a pebble. Pebble by pebble, the mountain reshapes. Today you'll turn time into a tool instead of a tide. You've learned to enter the field, to sprint cleanly, to protect the channel. Now you'll design a week that bends around your best brain, not around everyone else's emergencies. The promise is simple. When your schedule matches your biology, deep work stops fighting you. Your amygdala calms because it can predict what's coming. Your prefrontal cortex shows up on time because you gave it a stage. We'll use two frameworks, the peak plateau play map and the focus budget, and stitch them into your days with micro-rituals that make friction fall away. Start with the science bridge. Your brain rides ultradian rhythms, 90 to 120-minute energy waves governed by neurotransmitters, and the dance between the task-positive network and default mode network. When you surf a rising wave, focus feels like a dry, clean click. When you push against a falling wave, everything gets sticky, your jaw tightens, and your attention leaks into fantasies of elsewhere. Most people schedule by social convenience or default obligations. You'll schedule by signal. That means mapping when your beam is brightest and placing the hardest, quietest work there. The RAS learns the pattern. Reliability becomes reflex. Pause and sense your breath. Cool air slipping in along the nostrils, a warmer drift out. Notice the skin along your cheeks, maybe a faint buzz of aliveness. Feel the chair take your weight through your sit bones. The body is your metronome. When you listen, you can hear when the music is about to swell. The first framework is the peak plateau play map. Peak is the 2 to 4 hour window when your cognitive horsepower is naturally highest. Plateau is the long middle where you can execute, meet, and maintain without shredding willpower. Play is deliberate rest and light curiosity, walks, reading, daydreaming, where ideas recombine, and the default mode network gifts you solutions you couldn't force. You'll find your peak by recall and experiment. Think of the last month. When did hard thinking feel least heavy? Early morning before the world wakes, late morning after coffee, night when the house goes quiet, circle a guess. Then for the next 7 days, you'll run a simple trial. Place your deepest block, 1 or 2 sprints back to back, inside that guess and track traction. If words, numbers, or designs move easier, that's a peak. If not, shift the block forward or back by an hour and test again. Within a week, you'll find the ridge line. A story. In a small house with thin walls, Aidan thought he was a night owl because he often wrote at 11 p.m. and felt oddly alive. But he also crashed the next day, glassy-eyed by noon. He tested the map. He tried a 7 a.m. peak for 3 mornings, dock ready, water poured, phone in another room. The first day felt stiff, a sandy taste in his mouth, shoulders tight. The third day, something clicked. The sentences he dragged out at midnight slid into place before breakfast. He kept the evening for play, a slow walk, a book with no agenda. 2 weeks later, he was sleeping better, and his drafts were better. He wasn't a night owl. He was a person who hadn't met his morning yet. Bring attention to your hands. Feel the tiny temperature difference between palm and knuckles. Notice if your forearms feel a shade heavier now that you're not bracing. Let your exhale lengthen by 1 count. Calm rhythms teach your gatekeeper what on purpose feels like. Now the second framework, the focus budget. You don't have time, you have focus units. Each high-quality unit is a 50 to 90-minute block of truly single-target attention. Most people have 3 to 5 units per day before quality collapses. Your job is to spend those units where they compound. You'll track them with a small mark system. Each morning, draw 3 empty circles on your scratch pad. Those circles are your minimum budget. If you have more in the tank, you earn a 4th or 5th. Each filled circle equals 1 deep work unit completed inside a peak or early plateau. Meetings, emails, errands do not spend circles. They live outside the budget unless they are high-stakes thinking. The psychological trick is powerful. When you see the circles, your brain anticipates completion and will reroute energy to fill them. When you fill the last circle, you close the ledger and you stop expecting brilliance from a brain that needs play. This preserves tomorrow's quality. Biology check. Why does marking circles help? Because of the brain's completion bias and the dopaminergic seeking circuit. A visible, finite set of targets transforms the day from endless treadmill to finishable arc. Finishable arcs lower cortisol. Lower cortisol frees working memory. Working memory feeds strategy. Strategy makes deep work tractable. You aren't hacking yourself, you're removing drag. Listen to the room. There's a far sound, traffic, wind, a hallway. Then a near sound, the whisper of your breath, a keys click, a fabric rustle. Let both coexist without choosing. That open and narrow quality is the exact posture you'll keep during a good unit, wide enough to notice urges, narrow enough to ignore them. Here's how to stitch the map and the budget into your week with a practice called calendar weave. Each evening, you'll lay down tomorrow's weave in 3 moves. First, place your peak block as an immovable meeting with yourself. Title it with a verb and an output, draft chapter, scenes 2-3 or analyze data, model fit v2. Second, put plateau activities around it, 2 clusters for admin and collaboration. Third, insert 2 play windows of 15 to 30 minutes, one after the peak to let the DMN integrate, one late afternoon to deflate stress before you go home or shift roles. You're not cramming rest in, you're installing a creative accelerator. Over days, the people around you will start to sense that your peak is sacred. They'll ask, "Are you in your block?" That sentence will feel like fresh air. A story in an office that loved meetings. Renata worked in product ops and lived in her calendar. She set the peak from 9 to 11 a.m., blocked it as build, ops scorecard, and moved 3 status meetings into a plateau cluster from 1 to 2:30. She added a play window at 11:10, a 10-minute walk and herbal tea. The first week, someone tried to reclaim her peak. She used the boundary sandwich. I want this to be good. I'm protecting a deep block 9:11 to build the scorecard. Can we sync at 1:00, or do you want a bullet summary at 11:15? They took the summary. By Friday, her scorecard existed, and her reputation shifted from always available to always delivers. Check your posture. Let your shoulder blades sink down and back a millimeter. Unclench your jaw. Notice the temperature of air against the inner rim of your ears. Your animal body needs to feel unthreatened to allocate resources to the abstract. Treat it with the respect you'd give an instrument. Micro-drill time, 2-minute landing. Before each peak unit, you land the plane. Set a 2-minute timer. In minute 1, you 4-4-6 breathe and whisper your 3 tags for this unit. Maybe crisp, kind, thorough. In minute 2, you read the last 50 words or scan the last plot you made and write one now line. Start with paragraph on failure mode or plot residuals by feature. When the timer ends, you're already moving. 2 minutes skips the warm-up dithering that steals 5, then 15, then the morning. Another drill to guard your play so it feeds your peak, the white wall walk. After your deepest block, step outside or into a hallway and look at a plain surface far away, a wall, sky, horizon, for 60 seconds with soft eyes. This relaxes ciliary muscles taxed by near work and shifts your nervous system into a diffuse mode where insights bubble. Keep your phone in your pocket. If an idea sparks, speak a quick voice memo and return to doing nothing. That nothingness is not empty, it's creative compost. Taste whatever lingers in your mouth, coffee bitterness, toothpaste sweetness, the neutral clean of water. Feel your tongue rest, heavier now. These tiny sensory checks keep you from filling play with pseudo-work. Play is not more tabs, it is detabbing your mind. There's a common fear: if I block peaks and budget units, life will just blow it up. Life will intrude. That's why you'll add flex fences, thin wires that bend without breaking. A flex fence is a pre-chosen alternate peak slot, like a Tuesday early evening or a Saturday morning mini block. When a child gets sick or a launch explodes, you move the unit to the fence, not into fantasy. The identity shift is subtle but profound. You stop telling yourself stories about lost days and start asking, where does today's circle land? Circles landed become weeks survived with progress. A family story. Layla is a pediatric nurse and a parent of 2. Chaos is part of the job. She mapped a peak from 5:30 to 7 a.m. for studying toward her NP certification. She placed a flex fence on Sunday afternoons. On Wednesday, a night shift ran long. Her morning peak got erased by sleep. Old Layla would have called the week blown. New Layla moved one circle to Sunday. That afternoon, sunlight on the kitchen table, she did a single unit with white wall breaks while her kids drew dragons. A week later, she was still on track. She didn't become superhuman. She became a person with fences instead of fragile vows. Sense the contact between your feet and the floor, the slight pressure under your heels or the balls of your feet. Let your breath drop into your belly and widen your ribs on the inhale. The felt solidity you cultivate now is the same solidity you'll need when someone asks for your peak and you choose to keep it. Calm can say no. There's one more layer to the focus budget, the golden first hour. The first hour after waking is a master switch for your gatekeeper. If you can make the first 10 minutes low dopamine and high signal, you change the tone of the entire day. That means sunlight in your eyes if possible, water before caffeine, and no feeds until your first circle is underway. The biology is crisp. Morning light anchors your circadian clock. Water raises blood volume and attention. Delaying novelty prevents you from setting an early hunt mode that will haunt your sprints. If you must check messages for safety, do a one-screen scan on a non-scrolling device and then close. You're not being Puritan, you're giving your brain a kinder launch. A vignette from a studio apartment. Devon slept with his phone as an alarm and woke into blue light and news. His mornings felt like running into a crowd. He swapped the phone for a cheap alarm clock, pulled the curtain to catch the pale stripe of daylight, and put a glass of water on the dock. The first morning felt empty in a way that made his skin itch. By the fourth, that emptiness felt like spaciousness. The itch turned to ease. He filled a circle before 8 a.m. and carried a strange, pleasant weight in his chest all day, the weight of something already done. You might wonder about food, caffeine, and movement. Keep it practical. Light protein and complex carbs before peak if you tend to get jittery. Coffee 10 to 30 minutes before you begin, not sip the entire time. A brisk 5-minute walk or a set of slow squats as you start a unit to wake your vestibular system and increase alertness. The science isn't exotic. It's blood flow, oxygen, and the gentle hand of routine. When your body knows the choreography, your mind improvises better. Check again with your senses. Smell the room, the clean hint of paper, the ghost of soap, the whisper of dust. Hear the faintest far noise. Track it without following. Return to the object in front of you. The ability to return without scolding yourself is the root of sustainable deep work. You don't punish a mind into performance, you invite it and hold it. Tie it together with a full-day rehearsal. Tomorrow you wake and keep the golden first hour clean. You step to the doorframe, breathe 446, whisper your tags. You land with 2-minute landing, then run a 50-minute unit at your peak. You stand, white wall walk, drink water. You run a second unit or shift to plateau work, clustering shallow tasks so reload costs shrink. Late morning, you step into play for 15 minutes and stare at the sky. Afternoon, you reserve one circle if you truly have it. If not, you spend the day's remaining energy on maintenance and human connection, knowing your budget is already honored. Evening, you leave your dock in desk, reset 120 mode, sticky note ready with tomorrow's first, now line. This is not flashy. It's elegant repetition, the most underestimated force in adult life. Identity shift once more. You are not the victim of a calendar, you are its composer. You don't wait for a muse, you build a runway. You are the awareness that watches energy rise and fall and places your craft exactly where the wave is breaking. People will call you disciplined or lucky. You'll know its rhythm and respect for your biology, your work, your finite circles. One last sensory pass before you commit. Feel the breath move your ribs like a quiet accordion. Sense the tiny weight of your eyelids and the coolness at the inner corners of your eyes. Touch the edge of your desk and notice one detail you've never noticed before, a shallow nick, a faint ridge, a change in grain. That unnoticed detail is your proof. When you look on purpose, you see what was always there. Focus is not a mood. It is a way of looking that you can choose. Your drill for the next week. Every evening, calendar weave tomorrow. Place your peak. Draw 3 circles. Write the first now line under your peak block. Choose 1 flex fence for the week. When morning comes, protect the golden first hour and run 2-minute landing before each unit. After each peak, take a white wall walk. At day's end, count the circles you filled. If you miss, you don't moralize. You move a circle to the fence and reset the dock. Every repetition tells your RAS the same story. When I say I'll focus, I do, and when I can't, I land the plane somewhere safe. You are the awareness, not the emotion, not the ping, not the calendar alert. You are the person who places their attention where it multiplies. The week will still bring weather. You'll still be human, but with a map and a budget, you'll surf instead of swallow. And in the quiet after a good unit, you'll feel that warm, steady weight in your chest and know this is what you came here to make. Your attention is a lens, but the lens is mounted on a narrator. If the narrator whispers, "This is too hard," the lens fogs. If it murmurs, "One clear move," the glass clears. Today you'll train the voice inside the work, because focus isn't just silence around you, it's the quality of sound within you. We'll wire 2 frameworks that make your inner talk an ally, the clean cue loop and the 3-angle reframe. You'll also learn the micro skill that cuts Velcro between you and sticky thoughts, the detachment tag. The outcome is subtle and powerful, less wrestling, more choosing. Start with the biology bridge. Words change blood flow. Catastrophic phrases spike amygdala activity. Compassionate, directive phrases re-engage your prefrontal cortex. The reticular activating system listens to whatever you repeat and starts surfacing matches. Say overwhelmed, often, and your eyes notice proof you're drowning. Say one clear move, and your eyes notice the next actionable pixel. You're not manifesting, you're programming a search filter that happens to live in your skull. Feel the air cool at the tip of your nose and warmer as it leaves. Let your shoulders drop a centimeter toward the earth. Notice the texture under your fingertips, smooth plastic, faint grain, cool metal. These tiny realities are tethers. They keep the narrator from spinning fantasies that pull you off the task. The clean cue loop has 3 beats. Notice, name, nudge. Notice the first dirty cue language that adds grit to an already hard task. I'm behind, I can't focus, this is a mess. Name the state neutrally. Mind is anxious, body is restless, thoughts are loud. Then nudge with a clean imperative that's tiny and specific. 1 line now, open file, plot residuals. You loop it quietly every time you catch the narrator veering. Clean cues are not pep talks. They are steering micro-commands that lighten the hands on the wheel. A story in a kitchen lit by a small window. Sophia, a freelance writer, had an article due at 5. At 11, she was spiraling. "I'm the worst," she muttered, jaw tight, stomach knotted. She tried the clean cue loop. Notice, mind is catastrophizing. Name, anxiety present. Nudge, write the subhead. She typed the subhead and felt a soft unclenching behind her eyes. 2 minutes later, the old voice crept back. "This is boring." Notice, boredom. Name, restless energy. Nudge, write 1 opening sentence. She did. The loop became a rhythm. At 4:40, she pressed send with a strange calm. The article wasn't perfect. The loop had been. Taste the afterglow of coffee or the flatness of water in your mouth. Hear the most distant sound you can, traffic, wind, a far-off conversation. Then hear the near, your breath, a faint key click, fabric shifting. Holding these distances is your mind's way of widening just enough to let noise pass while keeping your beam on the center. The 3-angle reframe pulls your thinking out of ruts by giving your RAS 3 plausible lenses on the same moment. A positive, a neutral, and a preventive angle. Positive asks, "What's the most generous, truthful story here?" Neutral asks, "What factual, low-emotion story fits?" Preventive asks, "What lesson reduces future pain?" When the narrator defaults to doom, you run the 3 angles in 30 seconds and pick the one that keeps you moving. Consider Daniel, a junior developer who broke production for 10 minutes with a misconfigured flag. His narrator screamed, "You're done." He sat, breathed 446 and ran the angles. Positive, "I caught and fixed it faster than last time. My detection muscle is stronger." Neutral, "A flag was misconfigured. Rollback took 10 minutes. System is stable." Preventive, "Add a two-step checklist before toggling flags. Peer review for high-stakes changes." He messaged his manager with the neutral line and the preventive step. The dread in his chest shrank from a bowling ball to a tangerine. He didn't gaslight himself. He gave his RAS a map back to usefulness. Check your jaw, unhinge it for a second, let it meet softly. Drop your shoulder blades back and down. Sense the weight of your tongue. Quiet body equals clearer narrator. Your nervous system wants to know you're safe before it lets you think well. Now the detachment tag, the 2-second move that frees you from thought Velcro. When a sticky thought intrudes, "I can't do this. They'll judge me. This has to be perfect." You add 4 words in front. "I'm having the thought." The tag inserts distance. From the distance, you can run clean cues or 3 angles. Without the tag, you tend to fight, fuse, or flee. With it, you become the awareness watching a sentence float through, not the sentence. The change feels physical. Chest pressure loosens, breath deepens, the forehead softens by 1 notch. A studio apartment midnight scene. Nina, an architecture student, stared at her CAD file, convinced she was a fraud. Her hands were cold, a thin sweat at her upper lip. "They'll destroy me in crit," she thought. She added the tag, "I'm having the thought that they'll destroy me." She watched the sentence like a ticker passing by. She ran the clean cue loop. Mind is predicting, anxiety present, draw the next wall. Anxiety didn't vanish. It became background weather. She finished the draft at 1:20 a.m., laid her hand on the cool desk edge, and felt the small proud warmth at her sternum. Not triumph, trust. The science in short. Tagging thoughts reduces cognitive fusion, your tendency to equate a thought with truth, which eases limbic arousal and returns blood to the prefrontal cortex. Reframing updates predictions, which is the brain's favorite thing. Clean cues conserve inhibition fuel by replacing diffuse complaints with precise action language. When language gets precise, physiology follows. Bring your attention to your breathing again. Inhale and feel the ribs widen sideways. Exhale longer than the inhale and sense a gentle weight in your belly. That weight is your ballast. When the narrator panics, ballast keeps the boat from capsizing. Let's marry voice and breath with a drill called the 60-second voice reset. Set a 1-minute timer mid-sprint when you catch yourself muttering hell. First 15 seconds, 4-4-6 breathing. Next 15, detachment tag for the loudest thought. Next 15, 3-angle reframe in a quick whisper. Final 15, clean cue with 1 tiny imperative. You don't leave the dock, you reset the cockpit. 1 minute seems costly. It's cheaper than an hour lost to spirals. Story in a crowded coworking space. Haru had to send a design mock. Slack was popping. A colleague had opinions. Haru's narrator snarled, "They hate your taste." Breath, tag, "I'm having the thought that they hate my taste." Reframe, positive, notes make the work better. Neutral, feedback is mixed, 2 like, 1 doesn't. Preventive, ask for use case before style. Clean cue, clarify the requirement. He typed 1 question, is the primary use scanning or reading? The reply solved the debate. His narrator fell in line because he gave it a job. A sensory beat to wash the gears. Look at 1 object on your desk, the rim of a cup, the corner of a notebook, and notice a detail you'd never seen, a tiny nick, a hairline shadow, a seam. The act of seeing something small and true is a quiet antidote to catastrophic imagination. The true shrinks the huge. Sometimes the narrator weaponizes perfection. If it's not great, it's worthless. Meet that with the 90% door. This is a mental door you agree to walk through when a draft hits 90% of the standard needed for this stage. You define the stage out loud: exploratory draft, internal review, public release. The door cue sounds like this: For exploratory, 90 is ready. You set a timer for 5 minutes to run a quick, ugly pass on glaring errors, then you ship to the next stage. The door prevents you from pouring your last focus unit into polishing a floor that isn't poured yet. Luca, a data scientist, kept polishing plots no one would see. He wrote the 90% door on a sticky note and put it on his dock. During a sprint, he glanced at the note and whispered, "Internal review 90 ships." His jaw loosened. He ran a 5-minute ugly pass, fixed axis labels, removed a neon color, and sent the notebook. His manager replied, "Perfect for this stage." Perfect and 90 can be the same sentence when the stage is clear. Body check. Feel your sit bones press into the chair. Rock them forward and back a millimeter and settle where your spine stacks easiest. Let your gaze soften on a fixed point. You're turning your body into a tripod. Tripods don't wobble when a breeze hits. What about rumination after work that kills tomorrow's focus? Use the shutdown script. It's 2 minutes at day's end. Step 1, brain dump. Write every open loop on your scratch pad. Step 2, next now, write the single first line you'll do tomorrow at the dock. Step 3, close the loop, say out loud, "Work is closed, my system holds it." Then you stand, do a white wall walk for 60 seconds, and deliberately do something with your hands. Wash a cup, fold a shirt, to signal role shift. Your narrator stops narrating because it's been told where the story continues. A teacher's story may graded essays late and then lay awake narrating every student's future. She tried the shutdown script, dumped the open loops, wrote, "Tomorrow 7:30, grade 5 more," said the sentence out loud, and washed 2 bowls. That night she slept. Her mind learned that she didn't need to carry a filing cabinet into bed if there was a labeled drawer waiting on the dock. Another sensory pass. Smell the room, the paper, the soap, maybe nothing at all. Listen for the faintest high sound, a fan whir, a light hum. Then feel the clothing on your shoulders, its weight. You're training your attention to rest on reality when the narrator goes theatrical. A common protest, "But harsh talk makes me work." No, it makes you brace. Bracing burns fuel and shortens sprints. Try this experiment for 3 days. Replace should with choose and must with will. I choose one line. I will run a 25-minute sprint. Notice what happens to your chest and jaw. Most people feel 2 degrees less tight. 2 degrees times a week equals a different brain chemistry at 4 p.m. Let's put all of this into a live arc. You sit at the dock. The timer says 25:00. 5 minutes in, a thorny paragraph blooms and the narrator sneers, "You'll never say this well." Breath 446 once. Tag, "I'm having the thought I'll never say this well." 3 angles, positive, "I improve within drafts," neutral, "This sentence is unclear," preventive, "Outline the logic before prose." Clean cue, list the logic. You list 3 steps. The sentence begins to assemble itself. 15 minutes in, the inner critic returns with a new costume. It's too late to fix the structure. Breath, tag, clean cue, move paragraph 3 up. You do. At 25:00 you stand, look at the far wall and feel a quiet, honest relief. The narrator served the scene, not the other way around. Identity shift, again. You are not the voice in your head. You are the conductor who chooses which instrument plays louder. You are the awareness that hears a thought and decides whether it's useful now. You can appreciate a harsh violin without handing it the whole score. You do not silence the narrator. You teach it to cue you cleanly and to step aside when a frame will do. One more technique to metabolize emotional spikes without abandoning the work: the 90-second weather window. You felt it before, but now you'll add words and body. When an emotion surges, you set a 90-second timer and watch it in 4 zones: head pressure, heat, throat tightness, hollowness, chest weight, flutter, belly knots, warmth. You label the zones once: forehead pressure, throat tight, chest heavy, belly tense, and keep your hands still on the dock. You breathe with an exhale longer than the inhale. When the timer ends, you run a clean cue. The weather often passes, the work remains. If it doesn't pass, you choose a tactical retreat, a 2-minute walk, then return. This is mercy as a method. A hospital break room vignette. Arjun, a resident, had to write notes after a brutal code. Grief sat like a stone in his belly. He set a 90-second weather window, labeled the zones, and breathed. He didn't banish grief. He contained it long enough to write clean notes for the next clinician. Then he stepped outside and let himself cry. Focus isn't a denial of humanity. It's the container that lets you be human and competent in sequence. Feel your palms. Are they a little warmer now? Lay one flat and notice the micro vibrations in your fingertips. That's your nervous system saying, "We're online." When the narrator hisses, you can feel your way back. Here's the day's drill. Run 3 voice resets across your next 2 sprints. Keep a small tally, 3 dots on your scratch pad. Each time the dot becomes ink, you've chosen conductor over chorus. At day's end, do a shutdown script and write tomorrow's first clean cue on a sticky note. Open doc, list logic, plot residuals. Put the note on your doc. When morning comes, you won't negotiate with a narrator. You'll obey a cue you wrote when you were calm. You are the person who speaks to themselves like a seasoned coach, brief, kind, precise. You are the awareness, not the worry, not the perfection, not the late-night theater. You aim the lens and you choose the sentence. The world will still be noisy, the narrator will still have moods. But the loop, the frame, the tag, they make you heavy where you need to be heavy and light where you can afford to float. That is command. Notice your breath one last time. Feel the ribs widen and soften. Let your eyes rest on one point and see it clearly. Whisper your 3 tags for the next unit. Maybe calm, precise, patient. That's a clean cue. Follow it into the work. You've built ramps, cleared the channel, trained your narrator. Now you'll do something most people never attempt. Make collaboration increase your focus instead of eroding it. Deep work doesn't live in a cave. It lives inside teams, clients, families, group chats, and the never-ending stream of quick questions. Today you'll install agreements and tiny rituals that turn communication from a constant leak into a clean current. You'll use 2 frameworks, Signal-First Collaboration and the Baton Pass Protocol, and stitch them into your tools so your brain stops guessing and starts gliding. The promise is simple: fewer pings, better outcomes, more quiet stretches in which you actually make the thing. Feel your breath first. Cool in, warm out. Notice the weight at the back of your tongue and the soft pull at the corners of your eyes when you exhale longer than you inhale. Let your shoulders sink a few millimeters. This is the posture of a person who answers when they choose, not when the world twitches. Science bridge. Your brain pays a reload tax every time you switch contexts. It also suffers attentional residue, the sticky film of the last task that coats the next. Communication that is vague, urgent-coded, or interruptive multiplies both costs. Communication that is specific, visible, and scheduled lowers them. You'll train your reticular activating system to recognize true signal by packaging your asks and your replies in a way that your RAS and everyone else's can process with less adrenaline and more clarity. This is not a social makeover, it's neuroeconomics. Signal-First Collaboration has 3 moves you'll loop until they're second nature: the 2-sentence ask, the option deadline, and the context capsule. 2-sentence ask forces precision. Sentence 1 states the desired outcome in plain language. Sentence 2 states what you need from the person right now. No backstory, no novel. Goal: approve the Q3 deck for client send. Need: a yes-no on slide 8 color and any must-fix wording by Thursday 3 p.m. Optioned deadline calms ambiguity by giving 2 acceptable timelines. Ideal by Thursday 3 p.m. Latest acceptable Monday 10 a.m. Minimizing the spiky dopamine hope-fear loop on both sides. The context capsule is a 3-line scaffold at the bottom. Link, current status, next step you'll take when they reply. You paste it every time. Over days, your team's collective RAS learns what a true signal looks like. Short, explicit, bounded. A story in motion. Kareem led a small marketing team drowning in quick slacks that turned days into ricochets. His chest buzzed like a phone on a hard table. He introduced Signal First to his crew on a Monday and modeled it ruthlessly. When his designer pinged thoughts with a link, he replied, "Try this format, goal and need in 2 sentences, option deadline, context capsule." The next message read, "Goal, finalize hero image for landing. Need yes no on image B and permission to adjust contrast +5 by 4 p.m. Latest Monday 10 a.m. Link, Figma file. Status, narrowed to AB next. Ship export on approval." Kareem felt his jaw release. He answered in 12 seconds and returned to the deck. Within a week, the team's messages shortened, decisions sped up, and everyone's heart rate lowered. They didn't become colder, they became clearer. Pause and feel your hands, palms warmer than the backs, a faint pulse at the thumb joint, the room's temperature along your forearms. When your body lands, you stop reading every ping as a threat. Safety widens choice. Now the second framework, the baton pass protocol. Work dies in handoffs, not effort. The baton pass makes transitions crisp and frictionless so momentum survives. It has 4 beats: declare, deliver, dock, and deping. Declare the handoff in 1 line, passing baton to you for X, deliver the asset with the minimum steps for the receiver to begin, correct link, version, access. Dock the work by naming exactly where it lives, folder, file, section, so no one hunts. Deping means you include your next availability window up front so they don't have to chase. I'll be heads down 9:11, available after 11:10. You've just prevented 3 back and forths and the mental tap-tap of waiting. Anecdote from a startup. Jen, an engineer, and Omar, a PM, kept dropping the baton. Jen would say pushed, and Omar would burn 10 minutes finding the branch and another 10 guessing the test steps. They installed the protocol. Jen's message became, "Passing baton to you for review of feature flag handling. Deliver PR 1432 with test notes in README, added data sample. Doc, repo flags beta PR 1432, test plan under run locally. Deping in sprint block till 11, I can adjust after." Omar clicked, ran the steps, left comments, and never pinged "Where is it?" again. The PR merged before lunch. Neither person worked harder, the baton flew straighter. Check the muscles around your eyes. Soften them by 2 notches. Let your breath flow low into your ribs, expanding sideways like a quiet bellows. You're tuning your instrument before you play with others. Because tools either serve your focus or siphon it, you'll embed both frameworks into your apps with micro-automation. Create a text snippet for the 2-sentence ask and 1 for baton pass, abbreviated to something you can type fast. /ask expands to your template. Baton expands to the 4 beats. Pin a signal first note at the top of project channels. Set your email client to default to a delay send of 2 minutes so you can catch impulse sends without adding more noise. Your nervous system will feel this like a tide going slack. The constant tug loosens. There's a human edge here, learning to request collaboration without apologizing and to protect your blocks without arrogance. This is where tone matters. You'll use the boundary sandwich you've practiced: appreciation, clear boundary, forward path, and add the latency ladder, a simple phrase that kindness codes your response time. I run deep blocks 9:11 and 2:3:30. I check messages at 11 and 4. If urgent, text, read, and I'll surface. Color words work. Your RAS loves categories, and so do other people's. Most folks won't misuse red because it feels like breaking glass. Taste the faint metallic aftertaste of water. Feel the weight of your jaw and let the molars hover before they meet. Hear the farthest sound your ears can catch: a car, a bird, a vent. Then the nearest: cloth, keys, breath. You are widening and narrowing on purpose, the exact skill collaboration requires. A different kind of story. In a lab, Mari, a postdoc, used to answer emails the second they arrived because she feared being seen as unhelpful. Her heart lived at a low boil. She introduced the latency ladder to her Pi. I'm heads down 8:10 and 1:3. I'll reply at 10:15 and after 3. If read, I'll come. The first week, anxiety prickled like static on her skin as she didn't reply. By Friday, her Pi wrote, "Love this, you're shipping more." Mari's chest settled. Her identity shifted from responsive to reliable. Reliability is quieter and more respected. Microdrill now, the two-window method. When you must communicate during a focus block, you'll open a tiny com window at the top of each hour for exactly 3 minutes. You scan for true signal using tags you've trained your team to use: red for urgent, yellow for today, green for whenever. You answer only reds and one yellow if it removes a block for someone else. Then you close. The rest gets handled at Inbox Island. This preserves the beam while honoring the ecosystem. Over time, your team will shape messages to fit the windows you keep. Biology check. Why do windows help? Predictability lowers limbic noise. Your amygdala hates always maybe. It calms when you say, not now, at 0. The gatekeeper relabels incoming pings as not in scope instead of threat to belonging. Less cortisol, less compulsive checking. Feel your feet against the floor, the slight pressure under your heels or the balls of your feet. Let your spine lengthen a millimeter. Reassure your animal body you're not abandoning anyone, you're sequencing attention. You'll also install the meeting filter, a 2-question check that prevents calendar creep. What is the decision or artifact that will exist after this meeting? What must be prepared to make that happen? If the answers are fuzzy, you propose an asynchronous path with a deadline and a baton pass. If the answers are crisp and high stakes, you schedule and keep it inside a plateau cluster, not your peak. You become the person who makes meetings shorter and outcomes clearer. People stop inviting you to rituals with no spine. A vignette from government work. Paulo, a policy analyst, was trapped in standing meetings that produced nothing. He started replying, "To keep this sharp, can we name the decision we are making and what doc will reflect it? If we can't, I'll propose an async draft with comments by Friday." The first time felt like a heat flush across his face. No one pushed back. 2 meetings turned into 1 doc and 1 20-minute call that ended early. By month's end, his week had 2 new blank windows. He filled them with analysis that actually changed something. Another sensory beat: trace the edge of your desk with 1 fingertip. Feel a nick, a seam, a grain change. Let the tiny realness pull you out of social theater back into the work that matters. Here's how to install this in your tools by sunset. Write your ask and baton snippets. Draft a short collab rhythm message you'll pin. Deep blocks 9:11 and 2:3:30. Message windows on the hour. Inbox at 11 and 4. Red, yellow, green tags. 2-sentence ask plus context capsule appreciated. Share it with a tone of service. This helps me ship better for the team. Then prove it by shipping. People accept boundaries that produce results. An evening story at home. Tessa and Rob share a small apartment and 2 careers. Dinner time kept dissolving into half work, half scrolling. Tessa proposed signal first at home. Goal: eat together without phones. Need: 2 device-free windows, 7:30 dinner, 8:39 wind down. Option: deadline: start tonight or tomorrow. They laughed but agreed. They put both phones in a ceramic bowl, their trapdoor box's cousin during those windows. The first night felt itchy, the second felt like a quiet room in a loud city. Their brains linked home with downshift on purpose. Their mornings were sharper. Focus feeds life, life feeds focus. Let's deepen the craft with the clarity reply, a micro skill that shortens threads. When someone sends a foggy ask, you reply with 2 questions and 1 guess. To give you exactly what you need. Are you optimizing for speed or thoroughness, and who's the final decider? My guess is you want a 1-pager by tomorrow with 2 options. Confirm. This does 3 things at once. Names the trade-off, identifies authority, and narrows the deliverable. The gatekeeper in both brains sighs with relief. Your body now, breathe in and feel the ribs widen, breathe out and feel the belly grow heavier. Soften the mouth, rest the tongue. You are rehearsing the physical shape of clarity. Sometimes the world won't play by your rules. A client demands instant replies. A manager thrives on chaos. You'll use the mirror, then the frame. Mirror their value. I know responsiveness matters here. Then frame your method as a way to serve that value. If I batch messages at 11 and 4, I protect build time so I can respond with working solutions, not hot takes. Offer a trial week and report results Friday. Number of issues closed, time to decision, fewer errors. Data beats drama. If the culture still resists, you keep your practice inside what you control and identify allies. A single buddy using Signal first can cut your noise in half. Micro practice for when you feel chased. The shoulder tap reset. When a human appears mid-sprint, you put your palm flat on the desk, feel the surface, breathe 4-4-6 once, then stand to meet them. Standing signals briefness. You use the immunity line you've learned. Heads down to finish X, is this red? If not, I'll swing by at 11:05. 90% of taps dissolve. The rest become choices, not hijacks. Your body learns that boundaries can be warm. Another story, this one in a clinic. Dr. Alvarez mentored residents who peppered him with quick questions, each one important, together corrosive. He posted a small sign, rounds Q&A, 11:15 and 4:30, red, text red plus patient initials. The first day, a resident tested red for a non-urgent med rec. Dr. Alvarez replied, use yellow, 11:15. The resident adjusted. Within 2 weeks, the Q&A windows buzzed with better questions, and the hallways were calmer. Patients got better attention. The system didn't get colder, it got braver. Back to your senses. Smell the room, paper, wood, coffee, ghost. Hear the mid-frequency hum that always lives in buildings. Then return your gaze to one ordinary object and let your eyes rest. The ability to rest where you choose is leadership, even if you never put that word on your card. Tie it all together with a live day. You wake into a clean first hour. You step through the door frame, whisper your tags, crisp, kind, thorough. You run 2-minute landing and enter your peak. On the hour, you do a 2-window scan, reply to one yellow that unblocks a teammate with a 2-sentence ask of your own, then close. At 10:55, you send a baton pass that includes your availability. At 11:10, you do your white wall walk and eat a real snack. Early afternoon, a meeting request appears with no goal. You trigger the meeting filter and propose an async doc. It lands. Late afternoon, a true red arrives. You switch on purpose, resolve it, and return. Evening, you run a shutdown script and write tomorrow's first, now line. Your day has interruptions, but your mind doesn't tear. Identity shift. You are not a victim of other people's urgency. You are a builder of lanes where everyone moves faster with fewer collisions. You are the awareness that chooses cadence and teaches it, calmly, until your environment plays the same rhythm. People will say you're less available. They'll also say you ship the work that matters. Availability is cheap. Reliability is rare. One last drill to cement it. For the next 3 days, install Signal first in one channel you use daily. Pin your collab rhythm. Use Ask and Baton at least 5 times. Run 2-window scans on the hour during your sprints. At the end of each day, tally 2 numbers in your Signal ledger, messages sent and decisions made. If decisions made rises and messages sent falls or hold steady, you're building a culture of Signal. If not, tighten your asks, sharpen your deadlines, and shorten your capsules. Iteration is the teacher your brain trusts most. Feel your breath one more time. In, ribs wide. Out, longer, belly heavy. Touch the edge of your desk and find a detail you've never noticed. That's the grain of the real, the place you return to when chatter swells. You are the person who collaborates without dissolving, who replies without surrendering, who passes the baton like a relay runner whose feet barely whisper against the track. Tomorrow we'll tackle energy, sleep, light, movement, and how to keep the beam bright when the body sags. For now, let your systems do the social work so your mind can do the deep work. Quiet is not the absence of people. It is the presence of agreements you keep. Energy isn't motivation, it's architecture. When the structure around your body fits the way your brain was built, focus feels like a well-lit hallway with no squeaky doors. When it doesn't, you grind with a foggy head, a tight jaw, and a flicker of irritability that has nothing to do with your character and everything to do with light, timing, and fuel. Today you'll install two frameworks, the light anchor protocol and the sleep switch ritual, to turn your biology into a steady beam. You'll also learn a movement micro-practice that scrubs sluggishness without stealing time. The goal is not superhuman hype. It's a predictable current that carries your attention where you point it. Start with the science bridge. Your circadian system is your master clock. It coordinates hormones, temperature, alertness. It's set by light timing and anchored by behavior. Morning skylight, especially the blue-rich photons soon after waking, signals your suprachiasmatic nucleus to start the day, which increases cortisol in a healthy rise, lifts body temperature, and begins an internal timer that primes sleep later. Caffeine feels like energy because it blocks adenosine, a molecule that tracks how long you've been awake. Block it too early or too late, and you confuse the gauge. Short movement bursts raise norepinephrine and dopamine just enough to sharpen the beam without jacking your nerves. None of this is theory in a textbook. It's a lever you can pull in under 3 minutes, and your work will feel different within an hour. Notice the air on your cheeks. Cool in, warm out. Feel the weight of your thighs on the chair and the tiny sway in your spine as you breathe. Let your exhale run 2 counts longer than your inhale. That longer exhale tells your system you're safe. Safety is the runway where alertness takes off cleanly instead of shakily. The first framework is the light anchor protocol. Think of it as setting 2 lanterns in your day, one at morning, one late afternoon, that train your clock like a dog that finally knows when dinner is. The protocol has 3 moves you repeat daily. First, within an hour of waking, get real light in your eyes for 5 to 10 minutes. If you can go outside, do. If not, stand by the brightest window and look toward the sky, not at a screen. Pair it with water and 1 slow 4-4-6 breath. Second, delay caffeine by 60 to 90 minutes if you can. This lets adenosine clear naturally so coffee builds on a steady base instead of masking a fog that snaps back at noon. Third, in the late afternoon, catch a second dose of light, 2 to 5 minutes, then switch to warmer, dimmer lighting as evening approaches. The first anchor wakes. The second cues the slope towards sleep. You are not changing your personality. You're giving your clock a consistent handshake. A story in a small apartment with thin blinds. Rena always woke bleary, doom-scrolled, and chugged coffee under a kitchen bulb the color of a hospital. Her chest carried a restless buzz till lunch. Focus felt like pushing thought through syrup. She installed light anchor. Day 1, she stumbled to the balcony, eyes narrowed against gray dawn, and stood breathing while traffic hissed below. She drank water. She delayed her coffee by 1 podcast segment. At 4:30 p.m., she walked to the window for 2 minutes and looked at the pale sky, then shifted her lamps to a warmer setting. On day 3, she felt a clean click in the late morning. Her sprint didn't drag. On day 7, sleep started arriving earlier, like a train that finally got a new schedule. Rena didn't become magical, she became anchored. Bring your attention to your forehead, smooth it 2 notches. Unclench your jaw and let the teeth meet softly. Feel the skin on your forearms, a hint of coolness, a whisper of fabric. These signals tell your amygdala the tigers are paper, not teeth. Tigers that are paper don't steal blood from the part of your brain that writes, solves, builds. You'll tie light anchor to your peak plateau play map by putting your brightest light before your first deep work unit and your dimmest light after your last. If you commute in dark hours, mimic dawn briefly with a bright, cool lamp for a few minutes when you begin your day, then switch it off and let the room be normal. The point is the anchor, not all-day glare. On grey days, you still step outside if it's safe and just look toward the open sky. The clock listens to brightness levels, not perfection. Energy is also about fuel and flow. The fuel flow practice is simple: hydrate, protein, and movement, microbursts that don't require leggings or a gym. Start the day with a glass of water before caffeine to refill blood volume after sleep. Eat a small protein-rich snack if you tend to get jittery on an empty stomach. A few bites are enough to steady insulin so your focus doesn't collapse an hour into your peak. Then every 90 minutes, do a 90-second shake and see. Stand, shake your hands and forearms lightly to move lymph, roll your shoulders, look 20 feet away for 20 seconds, and breathe twice 4-4-6. It takes less than 2 minutes. You are sending oxygen, restacking posture, and clearing eye strain so your beam doesn't go fuzzy from tired muscles. The movement will feel like cleaning your glasses. Taste whatever lives in your mouth: coffee bitter, toothpaste mint, water plain. Hear the farthest sound you can detect, then the nearest. The alternation is how you'll treat your attention all day: open to the room, then back to the line. There's a temptation to treat caffeine as a fix-all. You'll use the caffeine compass instead. It's a 2-sentence agreement with yourself. I use coffee to lift a steady state, not to outrun a crash. My last dose lands 6 to 8 hours before bed. If you're a heavy afternoon sipper, test 1 week where your final caffeine is before 2 p.m. Notice what happens at 10 p.m. and tomorrow at 10 a.m. Most brains find that sleep deepens and the next morning's focus costs less willpower. If headache shows up on day 1, it's withdrawal, not proof you require constant fuel. Taper, don't rip. A midday anecdote in a fluorescent office. Owen kept a pot of coffee alive till 5 p.m., then wondered why midnight hummingbirds lived in his chest. He tried the compass. Last coffee at 1:30. A 90-second shake and see at 3:00. Water at his dock instead of another pour. The first evening felt flat. The second felt calm. By day 4, his morning unit spun faster. He realized coffee works best when it's not asked to build a bridge across a canyon. Your sleep detonated. Sleep builds tomorrow's focus like a construction crew you never see. Deep sleep clears metabolic waste from your brain via the glymphatic system. REM plays with memory and pattern. You don't control sleep like a machine, but you can stage it. That's where the second framework, the sleep switch ritual, comes in. The switch is not about lavender and fantasy. It's about cues your nervous system will obey if you repeat them. The sequence is 3 stages over the last hour before bed. Stage 1 is downshift. Dim lights, reduce screens or switch them to warm tones, and finish any hot tasks that would ping your brain at 2 a.m. Stage 2 is deload. Do a 2-minute shutdown script if you didn't earlier. Dump loops. Write tomorrow's first, now line. Say out loud that your system holds it. Then put your work objects out of sight if possible. Stage 3 is drift. A short, screen-free activity that is engaging but not arousing. Paper pages, light stretching, a 10-minute non-sleep deep rest track with eyes closed, a warm shower that cools your body after, signaling the brain that night has come. You run the same 3 in the same order most nights. Your body learns. These steps mean it's safe to release. A story near a window where city glow never shuts off. Cassie swore she was a bad sleeper. Her evenings were bright, blue light on her face, Slack still whispering. She bolted awake at 3:11 a.m. every night like a joke with a cruel punchline. She tried sleep switch. At 9:30 she dimmed lights and dragged her phone to a charger in the kitchen. At 9:40 she wrote, "Tomorrow 7 a.m., run 1 50-minute unit on survey analysis," said, "Work is closed, my system holds it," and placed her notebook in the trapdoor box. At 9:45 she stretched, then closed her eyes for a 10-minute NSDR track, letting scenes drift in and out without chasing them. By 10:10 she slid into bed. Night 1 was wobbly. Night 4 felt like a soft elevator descending. The 3:11 joke stopped. Her days changed not, because she became saintly, but because she installed a switch and flipped it. Bring your attention to your breath again. Inhale and feel your ribs widen sideways. Exhale and let your belly grow slightly heavy. Sense a gentle warmth above your sternum when you imagine the bed already made, the room dim. Your body loves preview. Preview tells it what's next, and next times itself to you. If evening work is part of your life, you won't pretend otherwise. You'll design a second, small peak with care. No caffeine after lunch, brighter light in that evening block, and a hard stop with a microplay window before the sleep switch begins. If the mind races, honor it with a 5-minute brain dump in a notebook you don't keep at your bedside. Then you leave the book in another room. Your bed is not a meeting. The way you move in the day matters as much as the hour you sleep. Long sits compress your alertness. You'll use the posture reset every time you start a deep work unit. Sit bones even, spine long like a string through your crown, shoulder blades down and back an inch, jaw soft, tongue resting heavy. Then one breath 4-4-6, eyes on a point. The posture is not decorum. It's an airway, blood flow, and a signal to your RAS that this is a cockpit, not a couch. Cockpits fly. Taste water again, feel it land cool and then neutral. Notice the temperature along your neck, the cloth against your shoulders, the tiny pulse at your wrist. These details make the day granular. Granular days leave fewer smears of fatigue. There will be nights you break the ritual, late travel, a crying child, a deadline you choose to meet. On those mornings, you don't declare the day ruined. You shrink your ambition, not your identity. One circle on your focus budget becomes the target. You run the light tanker, hydrate, do 1 90-second shake and see before you begin, and keep your first unit short. You protect the golden first hour from feeds even more. You act like a pilot landing in crosswind, calm, precise, smaller. The identity stays. You are the person who keeps the rail even on rough tracks. Another anecdote, in a hospital with brutal shifts. Ye worked nights in the ICU and studied for boards. Lightanka seemed impossible, he inverted it. After a night shift, he wore dark glasses on the walk home, dimmed his apartment, ran a mini sleep switch, cold shower, NSDR, earplugs, and slept a block. When he woke for study, he stepped onto the balcony for light, drank water, and did a 25-minute unit. He was not living a wellness poster. He was stacking tiny correct cues in a hard schedule. He passed. He cried in his kitchen where no one saw him and slept that night under a dim lamp. A question about food timing sometimes tugs. Do I need a perfect plan? No, you need to avoid the sugar cliffs that spike and crash your attention. Pair carbs with protein or fat when you can, and eat enough earlier that dinner isn't a ravenous raid that jolts you awake at 2 a.m. if you love late dessert. Put it earlier or slice it in half. You are not banning joy, you are smoothing your beam. If naps are your religion, keep them short and early. 10 to 20 minutes before 3 p.m. can restore alertness without stealing from night. Before you close your eyes, set an intention. When I wake, I begin the next now line. Naps without guilt become bridges. Naps with guilt become ruts. You are a builder, not a sinker. Check your eyes. They work hard for you. Every hour, give them a 20-20 glance, 20 seconds at something 20 feet away. Your ciliary muscles will thank you by not sending headache messages disguised as existential despair. You'll return to the line and discover it wasn't the work that hurt. It was your eyes pleading for horizon. Let's stitch a full day with energy architecture. You wake, no screens for 10 clean minutes. Water lands, you step into outdoor light or your brightest window, breathing slower than your mind wants to. You delay caffeine, then sip on purpose. You run a peak unit with posture reset and the ramp you've mastered. Mid-morning, you shake and see for 90 seconds, then run the second unit. Lunch is fuel, not a sedative. You keep it light enough to stay awake and steady enough to avoid snack panic at 3. You catch late afternoon light for 2 minutes. You use play to loosen mental knots. Evening, you dim, dump loops, and drift into the sleep switch. Your bed becomes merciful again. This is not a cleanse, it's plumbing. Identity shift runs through all of it. You are not a tired person trying to fake energy with tricks. You are a steward of rhythms. You place light and dark like stones in a river so the current flows the way you need it to flow. You are the awareness that partners with a body, not a mind that drags a body. When you respect the instrument, the music respects you back. One more sensory pass to close the lesson. Feel the weight of your eyelids. Notice the tiniest movement of your breath at the base of your throat. Hear the nearest sound, then the farthest. Touch the edge of your desk and find one new texture, maybe a nick you never noticed, a tiny roughness, a cool, smooth patch. Anchor to the real. The real is where energy begins. Your drill for the next 3 days is small and stubborn. Morning light within an hour of waking, water before caffeine, one delayed coffee by 60 minutes, one 90-second shake and see before each deep work unit, late afternoon light, and a 3-step sleep switch. Keep a microledger on your scratch pad with 6 boxes, AM light, water, delay, shake, PM light, switch, and mark them. Don't grade yourself, count. Counts teach your RAS that this is identity, not whim. Watch what happens to your beam by day 3. It won't be fireworks. It will be a steadier hum and a chest that holds warmth instead of static when you sit to begin. You are the person who sleeps on purpose, lights on purpose, moves on purpose. The world will still be bright and noisy and sometimes cruel to schedules. But you will carry 2 lanterns and 1 switch, and your focus will feel less like a fight and more like following a path you laid in the day's first quiet minutes. There are days when the beam won't catch. Your eyes skim the same sentence and it slides off like oil on water. Your fingers hover useless. A faint ache blooms behind the eyes. Your chest feels both hollow and crowded. You glance at the clock, then at the phone, then at the subtle mess on the desk. Resistance is not a moral failing, it's physics. Today you'll learn to work with that physics. You'll install 2 systems, the 4-hour recovery loop and the Boredom-to-Depth Bridge, so you can regain traction in minutes, not hours, and turn the dullest patch of work into a portal. You'll also add a tiny practice that dissolves sticky urges without theatrics. The promise is simple. You won't fear off days anymore because off days will have a handle. Start with a body check. Feel the cool air at your nostrils and the warmer air drifting out. Let your jaw float for a moment before the teeth meet softly. Notice the exact weight of your forearms on the desk, the fabric on your shoulders, the faint hum that lives in every room with electricity. You're signaling safety to a system that's braced. Safety brings back blood flow to the prefrontal cortex. It gives your reticular activating system permission to select signal again. Here's the science bridge. Procrastination isn't laziness, it's effect avoidance. Your amygdala tags a task as unpleasant or ambiguous, and your prediction engine forecasts pain. You escape to short-term relief feeds, snacks, email, because relief is immediate data. The fix isn't shame, it's giving your brain better data faster. Tiny proofs of progress, clear edges, and gentle physiology changes all update prediction maps. When predictions shift from pain to manageable, you get motion. The 4-hour recovery loop makes that update happen on command. The 4-hour recovery loop: recognize, release, re-enter, review. Recognize begins with honesty without insult. I'm avoiding. That sentence lowers limbic spin because certainty, even about avoidance, feels safer than fog. Release is a 60-90-second reset that includes 1-4-4-6 breath, a physical cue, hand flat on desk, feel a corner's texture, and a detachment tag for the loudest thought. I'm having the thought this will take forever. Re-enter means you perform a microentry, a 60-second scripted move tied to your current target. Open file, write 1 line, run 1 cell, list 3 sub-steps. Review is a 30-second debrief after 3 to 5 minutes of traction. What worked? What variable mattered? You write 1 sentence so your RAS learns the pattern to repeat. The whole loop takes under 5 minutes. It's an emotional gearshift you can pull even on a bad road. A story in a long hallway of afternoon light. Karim, a project manager, stared at a budget spreadsheet that always turned his brain to static. The static lived as a pressure band around his temples, a restless crawl in his calves. He reached for his phone and caught himself. Recognize, I'm avoiding. Release, right palm on the oak desk, trace the edge once, inhale 4, hold 4, exhale 6, tag the thought, I'm having the thought I'll screw this up. Re-enter micro-entry, list the 3 cost centers before any numbers. He typed them, review after 5 minutes, labels first, then numbers, edge touch helps. The pressure band loosened half a notch. He wasn't cured, he was moving. 1 hour later, the budget existed enough to talk to. His identity clicked a tooth forward, I am a person who can restart. Notice your tongue resting heavy in your mouth, the slight coolness along your inner wrists, the chair holding your weight through your sit bones. These are anchors. Anchors keep the boat steady while you adjust the sail. Recovery is for getting back in, but resistance's twin is boredom, the quiet saboteur that drains attention like a slow leak. Boredom is nothing to do, it's a mismatch between novelty and meaning. Your RAS is a novelty detector, but deep work often looks Samish to that detector. You'll train it to pick up subtler novelty using the Boredom-to-Depth Bridge. The bridge has 3 stations, microscope, meter, and mirror, that you cross in under 3 minutes to transform into curiosity. Microscope means you zoom 1 level deeper into the work's texture and name a tiny feature you've never named. If you're writing, it might be the cadence of a sentence. If you're coding, a boundary condition you've been glossing. If you're studying, the strange shape of a concept's definition. You whisper it, I'm exploring cadence on this paragraph, or I'm testing the off by 1 here. Meter means you quantify your progress in a way the RAS can count. Number of lines revised, test cases closed, minutes reading without backtracking. Mirror means you connect the tiny to your values. Clear cadence equals respect for the reader, or catching boundary bugs equals safety for users. The tiny novelty plus a count plus a value reflection flips boredom's switch from meaningless repetition to precision practice. Your gatekeeper starts flagging green. Anecdote in a cold library carol. Leela, a history student, felt sandpaper boredom scratching her chest every time she slogged through primary sources. The pages smelled like dust and time. She tried the bridge. Microscope, notice one rhetorical pattern in this letter. She circled how the author softened requests with kinship terms. Meter, find 3 examples in 20 minutes. Mirror, understanding rhetoric equals telling the story responsibly. 20 minutes later, the sandpaper was gone. The air felt warmer near her collarbones. The letters felt like living people with tactics. She kept going not because she found fireworks, but because she found grain. Grain is where traction lives. Feel the breath again, cooler in, warmer out. Let your eyes soften as if you're looking through the text to the space behind it, then refocus on one crisp point. Your visual system is a lever. You can widen and narrow on purpose to match the mental move from mirror back to microscope. Now for sticky urges, the ones that arrive hot, fast, and loud. You'll fold in Urge Surf 90. When an urge spikes, check feed, check fridge, check anything, set a 90-second timer. Describe the urge as a body weather report. Buzz in fingers, heat in cheeks, tug in gut. Breathe 1446, keep your hands still, gaze soft. Add the detachment tag to the headline thought. I'm having the thought I need to check. Do nothing else. When the timer ends, either return to your micro-entry or deliberately take a 2-minute walk and then return. Most urges crest and break under the observation. That's dopamine's wave losing height when it's not rewarded. You're retraining prediction by being very boring at the exact moment your brain expects a carnival. A kitchen table story. Marta, a med student studying pharmacology, kept bolting for the fridge every time a term blurred. She decided to surf. Urge spikes. Timer 90 seconds. Whether mouth dry, shoulders tight, left foot twitchy. Breath. Tag, I'm having the thought food will help. The wave rose, then flattened into a shallow ripple. She returned to the micro-entry, right mechanism in own words. The fridge stayed closed. Her confidence opened. Notice the temperature inside your mouth, perhaps the ghost of coffee, perhaps plain. Hear the far noise, a car, a hallway voice. Then the near fabric shift, your breath. You're practicing layered awareness, enough to feel, not so much that you float away. The 4-hour loop also has a long game benefit, data. Each review sentence, labels first, timebox ambiguity, cadence before content, becomes a small rule you can collect in a focus playbook. The playbook is a single page at your dock where you jot these lines. No lectures, no manifestos, just 8 or 10 sentences that begin with verbs. When resistance returns, you don't attempt bravery. You consult the playbook like a pilot checking a card. The RAS loves named moves. Moves reduce negotiation. A night shift anecdote. Theo, a nurse finishing charting at 2 a.m., fought a fog that tasted like metal in his mouth. He started a playbook in his pocket notebook. After a 4-hour, he wrote, stand to write vitals, then sit for notes, date time first, then narrative. If stuck, voice memo 2 lines, transcribe. Weeks later, resistance arrived like a heavy coat. He touched the notebook, read 1 line, and followed it. Coat off. Another body pass. Roll your shoulders up, back, and down slowly once. Let your lower ribs widen on an inhale and soften on the exhale. Place your palm flat and feel the cool desk. A nick at the edge. The difference in texture between 2 patches. Reality is textured. Boredom hates texture because texture collapses the fantasy that nothing is happening. Sometimes resistance hides in ambiguity, not emotion. You're fine until the page says analysis or the JIRA ticket says investigate. That's where you run the 2-flag clarifier. You drop 2 tiny flags into the task, a question flag and a finish flag. The question flag is one explicit question you're trying to answer this minute. What fails when feature X is null? The finish flag is what tells you you're done with this micro phase, a failing test that isolates null, or a 3-sentence explanation of X. You work only until that flag. Choosing flags shrinks infinity to a room you can cross. Your amygdala unclenches because it sees walls. A startup story. Nora founder had due fundraising prep on her list for 2 weeks. Panic tasted like copper under her tongue. She set flags. Question flag. What 3 numbers should be on slide 2? Finish flag. A note with those numbers and their sources. 20 minutes later, the note existed. The copper taste faded to plain. She placed new flags. The deck built itself 1 room at a time. There's also friction you can flip in your favor. Call it the friction flip. You make your default path easier than escape. If you code, you leave the repo open to the exact file and function you'll touch next. If you write, you leave 1 ugly sentence with a caret that begs for rescue. If you analyze, you leave the last chart dirty with a note, fix axis, and interpret. The next morning your brain sees a small mess it wants to clean. Cleaning is a pleasure loop disguised as work. The RAS spots the carrot and lights the way. A studio vignette. June, a painter, used to clean her palette to spotless each night. Mornings felt sterile, intimidating. She tried the flip, left 3 mixed colors and 1 unfinished corner. The next morning, her hand moved before her doubts formed. The unfinished corner was a ladder. She climbed. Take a breath, longer out than in. Feel the chair's solidity under you. Let your gaze rest on a single speck of dust catching light. Even dust can be a ladder if you decide. Now knit recovery and bridge into a single arc for the worst mornings. You sit, static inside your skull. Recognize, avoiding, release breath, palm to desk, tag, re-enter micro-entry for 60 seconds. After 3 minutes, the dullness returns. You step onto the bridge. Microscope, pick 1 feature to examine. Meter, choose a tiny count. Mirror, name a value that makes this matter. Urge spikes, you surf 90. Finish 1 count, review, microscope plus count works. You write it in the playbook. In 15 minutes, You've replaced despair with method. The weather may still be grey, but your feet are not sinking. Another story, an accountant named Jorge dreaded reconciliation work. The dread lived as a heavy, slow heat behind his sternum. He tried 4 hours, it got him 3 minutes. Then the heat returned as boredom. He stepped onto the bridge. Microscope, trace one vendor's anomaly. Meter, find 2 mismatches. Mirror, accuracy equals trust. Urge, open phone, surf 90. He felt the heat cool to warm. He found the mismatches, wrote flags first next time in his playbook, and stood for a white wall walk. He told his colleague later, "It didn't get exciting, it got doable." Doable is the foundation of great. Smell the room, paper, dust, a faint citrus from someone's hands. Hear the far sound, then the near. Let your ribcage widen and soften twice. You're seeding a nervous system that can stay when staying is boring. You'll add one more micro-practice that turns dreading into data. The friction audit walk. Once a week, you take a 5-minute slow lap around your workspace or even your apartment. In your head, not on your phone, you note 3 frictions that make avoidance likely: charger buried, chair height wrong, dock templates too hidden. Then you fix one right away and calendar the other 2. Your body treats fixed friction like kindness. Kindness keeps you coming back to the dock. A home office moment. Priyanka realized her timer app lived 3 folders deep. Every start required a miniature scavenger hunt. She pinned it to the dock bar and set a keyboard shortcut. The next morning, 25 minutes began before her doubts did. Lazy? No. Efficient? Your RAS prefers the path of least resistance. Offer it the right path. What about days that truly fracture? Bad news, sick child, spiraling world. On those days, you invoke the gentle minimum. 1 circle on your focus budget, maximum 30 minutes, deployed only on the highest signal task, with a 4-hour at the start and a white wall walk at the end. That's it. You keep identity intact by honoring the smallest promise. The brain records. Even on rough water, we placed a stone. Stones become paths when storms pass. Identity shift time. You are not a person who never resists. You are a person who recognizes and returns. You are not a person who needs constant novelty. You are a person who can make novelty from texture. You are the awareness that watches the urge, names the weather, and chooses one clear move. The world will still have gray days, but you will be the kind of builder who can lay bricks in drizzling rain. Last sensory pass before you practice. Feel the slight cool at the inner corners of your eyes. Notice the tiny weight of your eyelids. Touch the desk edge and trace an unseen groove. Listen for the quietest sound you can hear and the closest sound you can feel, maybe your breath moving your shirt. These are not small things. They are the door handles on a stubborn day. Here's today's drill, straight and kind. Before your next sprint, write 4R plus bridge on a sticky note. When you stall, run the loop once, then step onto the bridge. Count something tiny. Write 1 sentence in your playbook afterward. Do this twice today. At day's end, do a shutdown script and add 1 line to your friction audit calendar. You're not trying to feel heroic. You're teaching your gatekeeper that you come back every time with a method. When tomorrow's boredom arrives like gray light, you'll have a microscope. When tomorrow's resistance arrives like a wall, you'll have a door. And when tomorrow's urge arrives like a wave, you'll watch it crest and fall while your hands stay on the work you chose. Some people read to feel busy. You'll read to build power. The difference is whether information passes through you like light through fog or lands as structure you can stand on tomorrow. Today is about turning intake into output without drowning. You'll wire 2 frameworks, the capture, distill, deploy chain and the active recall ladder, so that every article, chapter, lecture, or brief is converted into something you can actually use inside your deep work units. You'll also learn how to design the next 48 hours after you learn, because memory isn't just what happens in the moment. It's what you do with that moment after your brain starts filing. The promise is clear. The more you learn, the quieter your mind gets, because nothing sits in limbo. Bridge the science in 1 breath. New material touches your hippocampus first, a temporary landing pad. To move into long-term storage, you need tagging what this is, spacing when you revisit, and retrieval pulling it up without looking. Retrieval is the killer app. It strengthens traces faster than rereading because your prefrontal cortex must rebuild the path, not stare at the scenery. Your reticular activating system helps by elevating anything you frame as useful and near. So you'll stop grazing and start tagging usefulness on entry, then you'll retrieve on purpose, then you'll deploy in small, concrete ways so the hippocampus decides this matters. Feel air cool against the inner rims of your nostrils. Let your exhale drop slow through your throat. Notice the chair carrying your weight, the faint pull of fabric at your shoulders, a hum somewhere in the room. Safety first, then structure. When your body says safe, your attention sharpens like a lens clicking into focus. The capture, distill, deploy chain is your new default for any source worth touching. Capture means you stop pretending your brain will remember everything in its raw, messy form. You mark only the high-signal bits in the moment, short flags, not paragraphs. Distill means you revisit within 24 hours to compress those flags into a tight summary that a future you could act on with zero romance. Deploy means you spend 5 minutes deciding where that distilled piece will change a behavior, a draft, a model, a conversation. The chain is short, unsentimental, and fast. It feels like putting groceries away before the ice cream melts. You don't need a perfect pantry, just a place where dinner lives when you need it. A story under fluorescent library lights. Malik, a second-year law student, used to swim through casebooks with a highlighter that left neon puddles. Exams arrived. His mind turned to static. He installed the chain. Capture. He stopped highlighting entire paragraphs and used a pencil dot in the margin when a principle or move appeared. 1 dot for rule, 2 for argument tactic, 3 for exception. Distill. That evening he opened a note titled Torts, Duty, 3 Moves, turning the dots into 3 lines in his own words with 1 microexample each. Deploy. He wrote a 5-sentence mini-closing, applying those moves to a fictional fact pattern, and dropped the note into a cold deck for quick retrieval later. 2 weeks in, his chest felt less tight when he opened the book. He wasn't hoarding ink, he was building handles. Taste whatever lingers in your mouth, the ghost of coffee, the flatness of water. Let your jaw unhook, then meet gently. Place 1 palm on the desk and find a cool patch. That physical reality is your metronome while you move through the chain. Capture begins before you even read. You name what you're hunting, a verb plus an outcome. Hunting a clean definition I can teach, or hunting 1 statistical caveat to guard our model. The RAS loves prey. Then you read with a pace that alternates, skim to find structure, slow down on edges. When a sentence meets your hunt, you mark it with a symbol you already know how to use, dots, stars, or a bracket. You do not highlight emotion, you mark utility. If an entire section feels important, you write 1 7-word line in the margin summarizing it. If you're listening, you jot the same micro tags in the scratch pad as you go, not fooling yourself that you'll transcribe a full sermon. The point is to reduce the volume of capture so that distillation is short and inevitable. Distill is where most people fail because they wait too long. You won't. Within 24 hours, ideally the same day, you perform a 5-minute squeeze. You open the source, glance only at your marks, and write a 1-screen note titled with a verb. Explain the 2 types of variance or apply the 5 signals of product-market fit. Each note has only 3 ingredients, 1 paragraph in your own words that compresses the idea, 1 tiny example from your world, and 1 when to use sentence. You're not building a second brain with velvet drawers. You're installing a muscle that turns fog into handles you can lift. Deploy is the hinge that makes knowledge change your days. You ask, where does this live in my next 2 weeks? And you pick 1 place, tomorrow's sprint, Friday's meeting, next week's design review. You create an application ticket, a tiny calendar entry or task that says exactly how you'll use the idea. Monday 9:00, open model V2 and check for variance type mismatch. Thursday, teach, duty exceptions, to study group for 8 minutes. When the ticket fires, you spend no time remembering what you meant. You already pointed the idea at a target. Notice your breathing. Inhale and feel your ribs widen sideways. Exhale longer and sense a small heaviness in your belly. The heaviness is good. It's the opposite of the floating you feel when you binge information with nowhere to put it. The active recall ladder makes remembering cheap. Rungs 1 through 4 are short and deceptively strong. First, rephrase without looking. Close the book and write 2 lines explaining the idea as if to a younger cousin. Second, rebuild with a prompt. Write 1 question you expect to face and answer it blind. Third, rehearse aloud. Whisper the explanation while walking or doing dishes, speaking lights different circuits. Fourth, remix in context. Use the idea inside a tiny scenario from your project. Each rung takes a minute. The trick is not to climb all rungs every time, it's to pick the right rung for the moment. Early on, rephrasing is enough. Before high-stakes use, remixing locks it in. A lab story. Sora, a biology PhD, kept rereading signaling pathways until the words blurred. She built a ladder. After a capture session, she closed the tab and rephrased in 2 lines. Next day, she rebuilt with a prompt she'd see on Qualls. The afternoon before journal club, she rehearsed aloud in the hallway. During data analysis, she remixed by predicting which pathway would break under drought and checked against results. The fog cleared. Her chest didn't flutter when questions came. She had already built the paths in 4 directions. Walking them under pressure was just walking. Let your gaze soften to the periphery, then land on 1 crisp point, a comma, a pixel, a fiber in paper. Your visual field is training the very switch you're building in memory, from wide to precise on cue. To thread the chain and the ladder into a life that still has meetings and laundry and kids, you'll use the 24-48 window. New material gets 2 revisits, one the same day for a 5-minute squeeze and another within 48 hours for a single ladder rung. Put the second revisit at the top of a deep work unit as the ignition minute. The hippocampus loves this cadence. It feels like glucose, short, timely, potent. Add a tiny drill called 2-minute Feynman. Before you deploy, open a blank page and teach the distilled idea for 2 minutes in the simplest language you can, then circle any word that feels like jargon and rewrite that part with plainer words. Teaching is not a performance. It's a mirror that shows where you're bluffing. Your body will tell you the throat tightens on weak spots, the breath snags. You sand those spots now so they don't trip you later. Smell the room, paper, soap, a hint of dust. Hear the far hum, then your breath. Your senses are the foam rollers for your attention. They release the micro-tension that makes recall crumble under pressure. You'll also build a knowledge lattice, a living web of 5 to 10 core problems you're solving this quarter. Each problem gets a 1-line articulation on a single page. When you distill, you tether each note to 1 problem. This belongs to reduce customer churn, or this feeds prove mechanism in Chapter 2. Now your notes aren't orphan sentences, they're beams in structures you care about. Your RAS stops treating learning like trivia and starts treating it like a tool attached to a live project. Lattice plus ladder turns study into strategy. A story at a startup's kitchen table. Priam, a product lead, read dozens of UX articles and changed nothing. He wrote 5 problem lines. Why do users drop at step 3? Where do power users feel friction? Which onboarding claims are lies? He tethered each distilled note to 1 line. 2 weeks later, a pattern glowed. Most drop came from a single permission dialogue. He wrote an application ticket. Thursday, deep block. Rewrite dialogue copy with friction-reducing moves from note C17. He shipped it. Drop fell. For the first time, he felt his reading land as revenue, not as a guilty browser history. There is a seduction in hoarding systems. You won't. Your chain lives in whatever you already use: paper notebook, plain notes app, a folder with ugly names. The only rule is that the 5-minute squeeze happens the same day, and the application ticket lives on your calendar or scratch pad where tomorrow's hand will see it. The ladder rungs live in your head, and a single page that lists prompts you care about. Ugly and used beats beautiful and abandoned. Taste water again. Let it sit cool on your tongue for a beat, then neutral. Notice the slight weight behind your sternum when you imagine tomorrow's unit starting with a 2-line rephrase and a tiny deploy. That weight is confidence without theater. For overwhelm, when the material is dense, the term's slippery, you'll run the glossary gate. You create a micro-glossary on the fly with 5 terms max, each defined in words a 12-year-old could understand. You revisit the gate at the 2448 window and remove one term that now feels obvious, replacing it with a new one if needed. Gatekeeping your own jargon shaves hours of pretending. The brain loves a small set that changes slowly. It feels like a game you can win. A classroom vignette. Talia, a data journalist, stepped into Bayesian inference and felt her brain tilt. She built a glossary gate with 5 words: prior, likelihood, posterior, conjugate, credible, interval. 2 days later, prior felt obvious. She removed it and added shrinkage. Her notes stopped reading like an incantation and started reading like directions. The beam caught. There's the trap of endless input. Your attention diet still applies. You will point the chain only at sources that feed the lattice. Everything else goes into later and usually dies. When guilt rises, I should read all of it. You use the detachment tag and a clean cue. I'm having the thought I should read all. Choose one that hits a problem. You are training your RAS to prefer weight over width. Another sensory pass. Feel your feet on the floor, pressure at the heels or balls. Let your shoulders sink backward a hair, then down. Soften your eyes by a notch. These tiny shifts make room for ideas to stick. Integrate with your sprints. The first 3 minutes of a deep work unit can be a ladder rung on yesterday's distillate, then you move into making. The last 2 minutes can be writing your application ticket for the next day. This turns units into a rhythm of learn, apply, learn, not learn, forget. Over a month, your notes page will look unremarkable. Your output will not. How to use this in a team without creating homework? You model the 2-sentence squeeze in public. After a meeting, you post, "We learned X means Y using it Thursday to do Z." Include one micro-example. You become the person who catches knowledge as it flies and bolts it to the floor. Others follow because traction is contagious. Feel the coolness at the inner corners of your eyes. Notice a faint warmth blooming at your chest as you picture closing a book and writing 2 lines without looking. That warmth is your nervous system recognizing a pattern that reduces uncertainty. Uncertainty fuels avoidance. Pattern fuels presence. One more micro practice, the 3-question transfer. After you distill anything, ask out loud, what problem does this actually help? What sentence would I say differently because of it? What tiny experiment can I run in the next 48 hours? If you can't answer, the source goes to later. Curiosity survives, the day does too. On days when the mind is noisy and rereading feels like comforting yourself with the book as a blanket, you will reframe. Reading isn't rest. Reading is rehearsal. Rest is play. Keep them separate so neither lies to you. If you need play, set the book down and stare at the sky for a minute. If you need rehearsal, set a timer and climb one rung of the ladder. A last story to stitch it all. Dara, a new manager in healthcare, got swamped with leadership books and policies. She built a lattice with 3 problems: give clear feedback, fix shift handoffs, reduce charting time. She ran the chain on a single chapter about feedback. Capture dots only on phrases that sounded like her mouth. Distill, explain, SBI in her words, plus an example with a resident. Deploy application ticket, Wednesday 10, give 3-minute SBI to Sam on discharge checklist. She ran a ladder rung at 9:55, whisper rehearsed in the stairwell, then delivered the feedback. It landed. Sam changed a behavior. Dara felt a clean, surprising warmth behind her ribs. She chose 1 chapter instead of 10 and moved her world 1 inch. Now breathe once more, cool in, warm out, place your hand on the desk and find a seam. Listen for a far sound, then the nearest. You are not building an archive, you are building a runway. Each capture is a wheel chalk removed. Each distill is a line painted straight. Each deploy is a step that says, this is why it matters. The ladder keeps the plane ready tomorrow, not just today. Identity shift, again. You are not a collector of insights. You are a maker who converts insights into moves. You are not a person who does research. You are a person who hunts, squeezes, and uses. You are the awareness that points learning toward a problem and returns 48 hours later to pull the memory up like a bucket from a well. The world will still throw you floods of information. You will not drown. You will drink on purpose and then build. Your drill for the next 48 hours is direct. Choose one source that hits a lattice line. Write your hunt sentence. Capture with restraint. Run a 5-minute squeeze the same day. Create 1 application ticket for tomorrow. Start your first unit tomorrow with 1 ladder rung on that note and end it with a 2nd ticket. Keep a tiny count in your signal ledger. Squeezes done, tickets used. Don't grade your prose, grade your use. By this time, 2 days from now, you'll feel the click, a quiet certainty at the center of your chest that reading now equals making later. You are the person who reads like a builder and remembers like a teacher. The material will still be messy. Your days will still have weather. But your chain will hold, your ladder will carry, and your work will show it. You've learned to start clean, to keep the beam steady, to recover when it skids. Now you'll master the move that turns focused work into finished work, deciding what not to do and shipping what matters. Focus without finish is a treadmill. Finish without focus is luck. Today you'll install 2 frameworks, Priority Triage and the Finish Engine, so you can choose like a strategist and close like a craftsperson. You'll also wire tiny rituals that make no feel kind instead of cruel and done feel crisp instead of haunted. The promise: fewer half-built things, more shipped things, and a quieter mind that believes you. Feel the air cool at your nostrils and warmer as it leaves. Notice the slight weight at the base of your skull where it meets the neck. Let your shoulders drop a ½ centimeter and your tongue rest heavy. Safety cues prime judgment. When your body stops bracing, the prefrontal cortex makes cleaner calls. This is where triage begins, not in spreadsheets, in physiology. Science bridge. Decision friction spikes when options are many, stakes feel fuzzy, and time horizons blur. Your reticular activating system loves salience and hates ambiguity. It will keep flagging whatever shouts, not what matters. You'll train it by giving every option a sharp edge with 3 questions. The point is not to predict the universe. It's to assign attention to the highest compounding move and let everything else wait without guilt. That's priority triage. Priority triage is a fast lens with 3 filters. Value, leverage, timing. Value asks, if this succeeds, how much does it move the mission I can name in 1 sentence? Leverage asks, does this create a structure that makes future wins easier? Template, system, relationship, or is it a one-off? Timing asks, is now the window where this costs the least and returns the most? You score each 0, 2 in your head or on your scratch pad, then multiply. A 2 times 2 times 2 is an 8. It goes to your peak. A 2 times 1 times 1 is a 2. It waits in plateau. Anything that isn't at least a 2 gets a parking lot entry with a review date. You are not throwing ideas away, you are pacing them. A story from a tiny nonprofit. Jamie ran programs, comms, and fundraising with a team of 2 and a brain full of shoulds. Her chest held a hot, jittery energy that felt like having 5 coffees and no plan. She ran priority triage on 3 contenders: launch a newsletter, rewrite grant narrative, revamp volunteer onboarding. Value: the grant rewrite could keep the lights on. Leverage: the onboarding template would reduce chaos every month. Timing: a major grant deadline was in 2 weeks. Volunteers spiked next quarter. The math spat out an 8 for grant rewrite, a 4 for onboarding, a 2 for newsletter. She put grant rewrite in her peak block, onboarding in a plateau cluster 3 weeks out, and the newsletter in the parking lot with review May 15. The heat in her chest cooled to a steady warmth. She didn't become colder, she became clear. Taste what's in your mouth: coffee, water, mint, nothing. Hear the far sound, the hallway traffic, and the near-breath fabric. The alternation is a rehearsal for choosing. Wide, narrow. Decide, begin. Next is the finish engine, a set of gears that make closing feel like gravity. It has 4 parts: define done, strip scope, lock cadence, and the last 2%. Define done turns fog into a finish line by naming the artifact in a sentence that a stranger would recognize. A 5-slide internal deck with 3 decisions. A 1,200-word draft sent to editor. PR merged with tests green. Strip scope removes ornaments until only the core remains, then offers a version 1 promise. V1 ships with X. V2 may add Y. Lock cadence pairs your focus budget with project beats, 2 units a day for 6 days, and makes a public micro-commitment to one person who matters. The last 2% is the handrail through the wobble at the end. You run a 5-minute ugly pass, a 3-item QA check, and you ship. You don't let the limbic system hold the wheel, because it got sentimental about perfection. Let's make it tactile. Define done lives on a sticky note at your dock. Done equals sent draft with 3 options and 1 ask. When you start a unit, you read that sentence aloud. Strip scope is a list of what V1 won't do, written like a protection spell. No animations, no case study, no new dataset. Lock cadence lives in your calendar. You draw 3 empty circles for the project and fill them over days until the artifact exists. The last 2% uses a checklist so your brain doesn't invent new work at the finish line. Typos, numbers, links. If you're tempted to add sparkle, you write it under V2 and return your hands to the checklist. This is mercy. You save future you from the swamp of almost done. Anecdote in a startup office that smelled faintly of whiteboard markers. Rosa, a PM, had a spec that metastasized whenever she touched it. Her jaw clenched, her temples pulsed. She built the finish engine. Define done, 4-page spec with problem, non-goals, acceptance tests. Strip scope, no full UX flows, no competitive landscape, no stretch goals. Lock cadence, 2 units day, Tuesday, Thur, micro-commitment to dev laid. Wednesday 4 p.m. draft. Last 2%, ugly pass plus QA, typos, numbers, links. Wednesday at 3:45, her limbic system begged for a competitive slide. She wrote V2 and finished the QA. At 4:00, she shipped. Dev lead wrote, "This is exactly what we need." Her body learned a new ending, steady breath instead of frenzy. Feel your sit bones, even your weight. Let your shoulder blades slide down and back a notch. The body posture of finishing is quiet and forward. The mind posture is too. People worry that saying no means losing chances. You'll learn the kind no, a sentence that guards your peak while keeping doors open. It's a boundary sandwich with a later link. Appreciate, boundary, path, plus a review date. I appreciate the invite. I'm protecting 2 deep work blocks this month to land the chapter. I can revisit on the 28th. If helpful, here's a doc where I drop future collab ideas. You paste the doc link, set a calendar reminder for the 28th, and return to your circle. You're not ghosting, you're scheduling. Your RAS hears later and stops screaming now. A story at a consultancy. Vic got pulled into every shiny gig. His calendar sounded like a popcorn maker. He wrote 5 kind no's in a notes doc and started sending them with minor edits. The first week felt like standing at the ocean's edge with his hands up. No one bit him. 2 clients respected it more. 1 disappeared, revealing they were there for free adrenaline, not value. Vic's revenue went up anyway because finished things sell better than promises. His jaw unclenched. His kids saw him at dinner. Breath check, 446 once. Notice the cool on the inhale, the heavier belly on the exhale. Finishing is not a sprint against panic. It's a pattern that your nervous system can reproduce even when tired. Breathe like a person who plans to finish. You'll need a way to prevent runaway scope in teams. That's what the scope gate is for. When anyone suggests a new feature past the halfway mark, you run 3 questions and 1 rule. Questions: does this change the definition of done? Does it compound value now or only in a hypothetical future? What do we drop to keep the date? Rule: if all 3 answers aren't compelling, the idea goes to V2. You write it on a visible list titled Holds for V2. People relax when they see ideas aren't dying, they're cued. Your finish engine survives. A hospital story because scope creep lives everywhere. Alana, a charge nurse, had to roll out a checklist on Monday. Over the weekend, colleagues kept suggesting ads. She used Scope Gate at the whiteboard. Define done, 1-page checklist laminated by Monday. Suggestions went under V2 unless they reduced error risk today. The list shipped. Errors fell. V2 added 2 nuances a week later. Patients didn't need the perfect list. They needed the working one. Perfect arrived because working arrived first. Let your eyes soften to the room's edge, then land on a single crisp point, a paper fiber, a pixel on your screen. The visual act mirrors the cognitive one, widen to hear input, narrow to ship output. The finish engine meshes with your rituals. 2-minute landing opens a unit with the now line that moves you toward done. The white wall walk after a unit keeps you from muddling at the end out of inertia. The shutdown script captures V2 ideas so they don't haunt sleep. Add 1 more piece, the final frame. Before you send, you write a 3-line preface to your recipient. What this is, what decisions you need when. Here's the 4-page spec. Looking for a yes/no on scope items 2 and 3 by Thursday 3 p.m. Comments welcome on tests. If no reply, I'll assume green and proceed. Clarity shields your shipped item from decay by ambiguity. A cafe vignette. Hannah had a draft that died in inboxes. She added a final frame, what need when default. The reply arrived in 30 minutes with 2 crisp notes and a yes. Her body memorized the sensation, a warm weight at the sternum, the whisper of breath at the nostrils, the unclench of the jaw. Finishing rewired belief. Sometimes the obstacle to finishing is fear of being seen. That's where the exposure step comes in. You pick 1 safe person and send a slice early with 1 question. Is the opening clear enough to pull you through, or does the test name tell the truth? Exposure teaches your RAS that small social risk yields fast learning and reduces last-minute drama. You also inoculate yourself against the big reveal fantasy that keeps people polishing in caves. Taste again, neutral water, maybe a hint of metal, name it. Naming simple reality makes the imagined crowd fade. Crowds shrink when you look at 1 person and ask 1 question. A micro practice now, the 2-stick ship. Place 2 small sticky notes at the edge of your monitor. On the left, write ship by time. On the right, write the 3-item QA. When your eye drifts, it sees the sticks. The sticks see you. At time, you run the QA, attach the final frame, and press send. It feels almost childish. It works because childish means visible, and visible beats clever when your limbic system is inventing delay. A story in a lab where drafts used to gather dust. Omar taped 2 sticks for a preprint, shipped by 4:30, QA, typos, figs, links. At 4:22 his hand hovered. His chest thumped. He looked at the right stick, ticked boxes, copied the final frame, and pressed send. At 4:31 he stood and stared at a white wall. It felt like stepping out of a pool. Water slid off his forearms, air felt cool on his cheeks. He was the same person as at 4:21, but the world had a new object in it, Because his hands moved. Biology check. Why does shipping calm you? Because uncertainty collapses. The brain prefers known feedback to open loops. Open loops invite rumination that masquerades as quality control. Finish clears loops, reduces cortisol, and frees working memory for the next unit. You are not chasing dopamine, you are releasing load. You'll also need a ritual for projects that can't be shipped in one send: theses, feature builds, books. Use milestone mirrors. Every week you produce a thin artifact that proves motion. A one-page outline snapshot, a passing test suite, a clipped video of a rough flow. You show it to one stakeholder and one future you on a shared doc and in your playbook. The mirror says, "We moved." Your identity hears that and stops whispering, "We're lost." Another short story. Nisha, writing a dissertation, drowned in months that looked the same. She set Friday mirrors, a paragraph of findings and one figure. Her advisor started replying faster because the mirror made a question. Nisha's Sundays got quieter. Her brain traded, "Am I even doing this?" for "I do this every week." Touch the desk edge. Find a seam with your fingertip. The seam is where two surfaces meet and make a clean line. Finishing is finding the seam between enough and more and choosing enough on purpose. Sometimes you should not finish. That's radical drop. When a thing bleeds units and never hits value times, leverage times, timing greater or equal to 2, you quit publicly and kindly. "I'm closing Project X, the return isn't there this quarter. Here's what I learned, and here's a doc for anyone who wants to revive it in Q4. Dropping freeze circles for compounding bets. The identity move is key. You're not a quitter. You're a portfolio manager of attention. A startup anecdote. Lewis clung to a feature because it was his idea. The metrics hated it. He wrote a radical drop note, shipped the doc of lessons, and moved to a tool that reduced churn. Revenue bent. His jaw loosened in week 4. He learned that pride can ride the V2 list to the future and still feel honored. Your senses again. Smell the room, paper, a ghost of coffee, clean air. Hear the far sound, then the near. Let your exhale extend a beat. Each sensory pass is a micro now. Finishing happens only in now, never in the grand future where we daydream becoming someone. You become someone by pressing send in small present moments. Tie all of it into a live arc. Tonight, you run a shutdown script with a twist. Write, define, done for your highest triaged project on a sticky and park V2 ideas on another. Tomorrow, you wake into the golden first hour, step through the doorframe, breathe 446, and read, define, done aloud. You run 2-minute landing, then 1 unit inside your finish engine cadence. Midway, a shiny thought arrives. You pay the temptation tax, drop it into V2, and keep going. Last 5 minutes, you do the ugly pass plus QA and attach the final frame. You ship. If it bounces back, you invoke scope gate and retriage. If you're blocked, you send a baton pass with a crisp ask and an availability window. If the day explodes, you do gentle minimum and ship a milestone mirror. You end with a white wall walk and a breath that feels like turning a page. Identity shift. You are not a collector of starts. You are a finisher of significance. You are not allergic to no, you are fluent in it. You are the awareness that weighs value, leverage, and timing in a calm body and then builds a small, beautiful bridge to done. People will say you're decisive. They'll say you always ship. You'll know it's choreography, triage, scope, cadence, frame, over and over until the work exists and the mind is quiet. One last sensory pass to seal it. Feel the weight of your eyelids, smooth the skin at your temples with an imaginary hand. Notice a single detail on your desk you've never seen, a faint scratch, a fleck of dust, a subtle curve, and let it anchor you. Whisper your 3 tags for the next unit. Maybe clean, brave, done. That's your gatekeeper's script. Drill for the next 48 hours. Pick one project, run priority triage against 2 others and park them with review dates. Write define done and V2 on separate stickies. Schedule a 3-day lock cadence with circles drawn. Add 2 sticks to your monitor. Ship by time and typos, numbers, links. Write your final frame now so sending later is a click, not a negotiation. When you feel the last-minute itch, put it on V2 and move your hands. If you drop something, drop it aloud. Your ledger is reliability, not drama. You are the person who finishes without frenzy. You choose with a cool chest and warm hands. You ship, and the world changes a notch. Then you breathe and choose again. There will be days when everything you've built feels far away. A launch fails. A teacher shreds your draft. A child spikes a fever. You slept 4 hours and your mind hums like a fluorescent light. The old gravity returns, feeds, fret, fog. Today you'll learn to turn those hits into fuel instead of leaks. You'll install 2 frameworks, the anti-fragile reset and the signal garden, so setbacks sharpen your focus, not sand it down, and so progress compounds even when life slants sideways. You'll also wire a relapse playbook you can run half asleep. The promise: when the world shakes, your attention won't shatter, it will bend, absorb, and come back tighter. Start with the science bridge. Stress narrows perception, the amygdala steals blood, your pupils widen, your visual field tunnels, and your reticular activating system spots threats faster than opportunities. That's useful in alleys, disastrous at keyboards. Anti-fragility isn't about never breaking, it's about systems that improve with strain. Your brain is plastic. The pathways you fire under pressure become your default under peace. So you'll choose which pathways to fire when the alarm bells ring. We'll do it with a short, repeatable sequence that occupies breath, body, and language, all 3 gates your alarm uses. Notice the air at your nostrils, cool on the inhale, warmer on the exhale. Sense the weight of your forearms on the desk. Let your jaw unhook and meet lightly. 1 long exhale. You're not wasting time by feeling, you're telling the gatekeeper, stand down so we can steer. The anti-fragile reset has 4 beats: ground, grade, gate, go. Ground is 90 seconds where you reclaim physiology. 1-4-4-6 breath, palm flat on the desk to feel texture, eyes soft on a far point for 20 seconds to relax your ciliary muscles. Then name 3 body sensations: forehead tight, chest warm, calves buzz. Grade is honest triage in 1 sentence using the value, leverage, timing, lens of the hits which move the mission if fixed. You score fast, you pick 1. Gate is a boundary you announce to yourself and, if needed, to others. Heads down 30 minutes, read only. Go is a micro plan you can begin in 60 seconds, Task Alchemy's script for the first minute. You run the sequence once. If the world intrudes, you run it again. Under strain, repetition is strength. A story in a dim apartment before sunrise. Sean's dataset corrupted 2 days before demo. His chest felt hollow and hot. The back of his neck prickled. He opened a feed and caught himself. Ground, hand to desk, breath, far point, 3 sensations. Grade, restore yesterday's stable subset equals highest leverage. Gate, calendar block, heads down 6:37:30, read only. Go script, pull back up V3, verify columns, rerun small test. Half an hour later, he had a stable slice. The hollow heat cooled to steady warmth at the sternum. He wasn't fine, he was functional. By noon, the demo ran on the subset, the full dataset rebuilt the next day. Stress had trained a root, not burned one. Taste whatever lives in your mouth: coffee, ghost, mint, nothing. Hear the far hum, a vent, a car, and the near, your breath. The alternation is focus's hinge, wide enough to detect threat, narrow enough to build. When failure is social, feedback that stings, a public miss, you'll add the 2-frame debrief, facts then lessons. 1 minute, write only what happened in neutral terms, no adjectives. 1 minute, write 1 lesson that reduces future pain. Then you move. The RAS updates fast when you strip drama and attach a next step. You're not soothing yourself with slogans, you're showing your prediction engine a better map. Now for the second framework, the signal garden. Gardens aren't hacked, they're tended. Your work is a collection of living plots, skills, relationships, systems that need small, regular care to prevent entropy. The signal garden has 3 beds: core, support, and soil. Core holds the 2-3 skills that multiply everything you do: clear writing, clean modeling, decisive product sense. Support holds the structures that protect the core, your dock, focus, budget, baton passes. Soil is health, sleep, light, movement that feeds the roots. Each week you choose one micro-10 for each bed, small enough that failure is hard. Core might get a 15-minute deliberate drill, rewrite a paragraph for cadence, refactor a tricky function. Support might get a 10-minute environment tweak, pin a snippet, tighten your ask template. Soil might get 2 minutes of white wall light or one sleep switch step every night. Gardens thrive on boring consistency. Boring is where compounding hides. Anecdote in a lab with flickering bulbs. Imani, a postdoc, felt her skills plateau and her days fray. She drew her garden. Core explain mechanisms, interpret plots. Support, signal first, focus field. Soil, light, sleep switch. She scheduled 3 micro-10s, rewrite yesterday's paragraph for clarity, convert one messy Slack ask into 2-sentence ask, catch afternoon light for 2 minutes. After 2 weeks, her drafts read easier and her inbox felt thinner. No marathons, no epiphanies, just a garden watered. Her identity shifted from I'm drowning to I'm tending. Tenders stay. Check your posture, sit bones even, shoulder blades down and back a notch. Feel the weight at the base of your skull. Let the exhale slide longer. Safety is not softness, it's structure. Relapse is part of rhythm. You'll build a relapse playbook you can run without thinking. It's 3 moves and a rule. Moves, reset, repair, resume. Reset is the anti-fragile reset in 2 minutes. Repair is one action to fix what broke socially or technically, send apology with clarity, revert PR. Resume is a gentle minimum unit inside your peak or your flex fence. 1 circle for 30 minutes on the highest signal target. The rule, no self-story outside the facts for 24 hours. You can journal lessons tomorrow. Today, you move. Rumination poses as responsibility. It's often just cortisol rehearsing itself. Another story, Al, a teacher, snapped at a student from exhaustion. Guilt pulsed behind his eyes. He ran reset. He ran repair, apologized directly, named the behavior, named the standard he'd hold to, asked one question about the student's understanding. He ran resume, 30 minutes planning tomorrow's lesson with a micro-entry. That night he slept. The next day his chest didn't buzz with shame. It held a steady, honest warmth. Focus is not moral purity. It's attention placed where repair and progress live. Smell the room, paper, dust, a whisper of soap. Trace a nick on your desk with 1 fingertip. Name it, you're back in the grain. Grain is where traction lives when ego is loud. On weeks when everything tilts, you need a small ritual to re-aim without rebuilding. Use the Tilt Review 15. Set a 15-minute timer. Minute 03, value leverage, timing triage on all open projects. Minutes 3-8, rewrite define done for the one that matters this week. Move scope gate ideas to V2. Minutes 8-12, calendar weave your peak block and 1 play window. Minutes 12-15, write 2 now lines for tomorrow and stick them on the dock. That's it, you didn't solve your life, you gave it rails. Rails carry even tired trains. When energy is low, you'll add the 3-breath boundary, 3 consecutive 4-4-6 breaths whenever you switch contexts by choice. Breath 1 closes the last tab in your head. Breath 2 names the new target. Breath 3 begins the micro-entry. You taught your system to enter, now you teach it to exit cleanly. Clean exits prevent attentional residue from smearing your next unit. A field story. Kira, a nurse practitioner, ping-ponged between charting and patience. She started running 3 breath boundaries at each doorframe. Breath 1 leave memory, breath 2 name the next, breath 3 enter. Her notes got cleaner, her visits felt present. Her fatigue dropped a notch not because hours changed, but because residue did. Body check again. Notice the temperature on your forearms. Let your jaw soften. Feel your belly gain a small, comforting weight on the exhale. This is the body of someone who can take a hit and still write 1 clean sentence. Because identity runs everything, you'll install the identity integration loop. It's a 7-line script you say after hard days. Line 1, name the weather, today was choppy. Line 2, name one kept promise, I ran the gentle minimum. Line 3, name one repair, I sent the clarifying note. Line 4, name one lesson as a verb, timebox ambiguity. Line 5, name one micro-tend for tomorrow, rewrite paragraph 2. Line 6, state identity, I am a finisher who returns. Line 7, close the loop, work is closed, my system holds it. This is not affirmation theater, it's an evidence ledger spoken aloud. The RAS listens to evidence in your voice. A small apartment vignette. Ori cried in the shower after a brutal meeting. He dressed, whispered the 7 lines, and put a sticky on his dock. Timebox ambiguity. The next morning, the sticky was a hand on his back, gentle and firm. He ran a clean unit. The story he told himself changed because the facts he gathered did. You'll need one more tool for when the world's noise spikes beyond your circle: news, timelines, collective panic. Run the perimeter protocol. It has 3 steps and protects your focus budget from global storms. Step 1, define your perimeter question. What must I know to keep my people safe and my work responsible? Step 2, choose 2 sources and 1 time slot. Everything else goes to later. Step 3, after the slot, run a 90-second weather window and 1 gentle minimum circle. This is not apathy, it's discipline that keeps you effective. Panic wants your hours, service wants your units. Taste water, cool then neutral. Hear the far sound, then your breath. Put your palm on the desk. Reality is strong enough to hold you. The signal garden deserves 1 advanced move, the weekly beam. Once a week, you write a 3-sentence memo to yourself. Sentence 1, this week's beam is 1 phrase like finish spec or stabilize sleep. Sentence 2, I will protect it by 2 boundaries. Sentence 3, compounding tens, core support soil, you pin it above the dock. The memo is a lighthouse in a foggy week. You read it at the start of each peak. Your hands remember what your eyes see often. A story at a non-profit office with old carpet. B wrote, this week's beam is donor narrative V1. Protect, peak blocks and scope gate. Tens, copy cadence, ask template, PM light. Every morning she read it. Every afternoon she ran tilt review 15. Friday came with a real draft and a calmer chest. Her team asked why she seemed unbothered. She wasn't unbothered, she was beamed. You'll connect all of this to collaboration with 1 micro-habit, the calm stamp. Whenever you send a baton pass under stress, you prepend a 1-line status in neutral tone. Status, subset restored, moving to tests, heads down till 11. It signals reliability without performative panic. Teams learn from tone. Your tone can lower a room's cortisol by 2 degrees. Sometimes the hit isn't external. It's your own mind rebelling, old stories, old fears. That's when you run the 10-10 walk. 10 minutes of slow walking outside or down a hall with eyes up and no phone, followed by 10 words you write on a card about who you're being now. Builder, tender, finisher, clear, kind, patient, brave, crisp, steady, here. You carry the card to the dock and whisper 3 of them before the next unit. You're giving the RAS tags it can match under fire. Another sensory pass. Smooth your forehead with an imaginary hand. Feel the fabric on your shoulders, the tiny roughness at 1 seam. Let your breath lengthen a beat. The body keeps score, yes, but it also keeps rhythm. You're teaching it a better song. When fatigue is chronic, you scale your ambitions to preserve identity. You use the half beam, halve your circles for the week and keep only the compounding tens. The rest goes to V2 with a review date. Half beams keep momentum, prevent shame spirals, and protect your garden in drought. Shame is corrosive to focus. Momentum is fertilizer. Factory floor story. Ramon's father got sick, his shifts stretched. He ran half beam, 1 circle a day, garden tens only. He shipped nothing glamorous for 2 weeks, but he didn't lose the rail. When life softened, his beam expanded, not from guilt but from stored trust. Biology check. Why do these tiny declarations and resets work? Because prediction and precision calm threat. Breath lengthens exhale, vagus says safe, prefrontal returns online. Naming facts updates models. Small, visible progress gives dopamine a place to land. Identity statements tie today's moves to a bigger narrative your RAS can prioritize. None of this asks you to feel like a hero. It asks you to be a steward of levers you already own. Let's rehearse the worst morning. You wake heavy. News was bad, sleep was thin. You keep the golden first hour quiet for 10 minutes, step into morning light, drink water. At the dock, you run anti-fragile reset, ground, grade, gate, go. You aim at one define done from yesterday's finish engine. 20 minutes in, an urge spikes. You surf 90. A colleague pings with chaos. You use the calm stamp and the two-window method. At 10:55, you run tilt review 15 and tighten the day. Afternoon, you run the weekly beam aloud. Evening, you sleep switch with a shutdown script and an identity integration loop. It's not pretty, it's enough. Enough is what turns into momentum tomorrow. Identity shift, again and always. You are not a brittle executor who collapses when hit. You are a builder whose attention gets smarter under strain. You do not wait for perfect days, you garden the day you have. You are the awareness that breathes once, names the grain, and moves one pebble even when the sky grumbles. People will say you're calm under pressure. You'll know it's practice under pressure, repeated, ordinary, merciful. Close with a small drill you can run right now. Write your weekly beam for the next 7 days. Under it, list one microtend each for core, support, soil. On another sticky, copy the 4 words, ground, grade, gate, go, put both at your dock. When the next wobble hits, today, tomorrow, you won't negotiate. You'll press the buttons you installed and you'll move. Not because you're relentless, but because you learn to be gentle in a way that keeps promises. One last sensory pass to seal it. Hear the far sound, hear the near, feel the weight at your sternum, the quiet warmth that flickers there when you picture finishing one small thing today anyway. Touch the desk and find the cool patch again. That patch is real, so is your capacity to return. You've stacked tools like clean stones across a river. You felt the click when the dock is ready, the breath settles, the beam narrows, and your hands move. Today is the stitch, the way you turn what you've learned into a life that keeps getting quieter and stronger. We'll build 2 final frameworks that run in the background like an operating system, the Focus Flywheel and the Keystone Day. The flywheel explains why small, repeatable moves compound until deep work feels like gravity. The Keystone Day is your blueprint for living that gravity once a week, so the rest of the week aligns without effort. We'll close with a promise you make to yourself in plain language. No slogans, just rails. Breathe once and feel the air cool at the rim of your nostrils, warmer as it leaves. Drop your shoulders by a centimeter, let your tongue rest heavy, notice the exact weight of your forearms on the desk. That's your instrument tuning. When the body is tuned, the reticular activating system takes instruction instead of the stage. This last chapter isn't about hype. It's about choreography you can run when you're tired, busy, or heartbroken and still want to make something true. Science Bridge. Long-term focus lives on the edge of 2 neural rhythms, stability and novelty. Too much stability and your task-positive network dulls. Too much novelty and your limbic system hijacks. The reason your systems worked, 4-4-6 breath, focus field, single target sprints, calendar weave, signal first, sleep switch, is that they set the ratio. They make novelty tiny and chosen, stability wide and safe. You'll encode that ratio into one loop you can sketch on a napkin and rebuild from memory anytime. The Focus Flywheel has 4 spokes. Start clean, sprint small, ship something, savor briefly. Start clean means you run 2-minute landing and a 4-4-6 breath, so physiology and language point the same direction. Sprint small is a 25 or 50-minute single-target sprint with a microentry scripted by Task Alchemy and guarded by Anchor 3. Ship something means each unit creates a micro-artifact that moves a project, one paragraph, one passing test, one plotted chart, and ends with an ugly pass plus QA or a baton pass that removes someone else's block. Savor briefly is a 15 to 60-second pause where you name one specific feature of progress and feel it in your body, warmth at the sternum, breath ease, jaw soft. Then the wheel turns again. The savor is not self-congratulation. It's dopamine anchored to craft, teaching your RAs that deep work equals reward. When you repeat this sequence 3 times a day for 3 weeks, it becomes muscle memory. When you break it for 3 days, you run one wheel and your hands remember. A story at a wobbly kitchen table. Vera was a new parent and a CTO. Sleep chopped her nights into fragments, mornings tasted like wool. She drew the flywheel on a receipt. Start clean, 2 minutes, doorframe breath, read the now line. Sprint small, 25 minutes, write the database migration plan. Ship something, push a draft doc and at mention dev laid. Savor briefly, palm to sternum, whisper, moved schema. 3 wheels later, she had a plan. The baby cried, the day scattered. Next morning she ran one wheel and shipped a tiny PR. She stopped chasing mythical long stretches and built a life out of wheels. Weeks later, her team joked that she shipped like a lighthouse, small, steady flashes that always came. Feel your palms, warmer than the backs. Find a cool spot on the desk with one fingertip. Listen for the farthest sound your ears can catch. The hallway, a bird, traffic, and then the nearest, your breath, a keys click. That widening and narrowing is the wheel's rhythm. Open to check the world, narrow to make one move, open to feel it land, narrow again. The Keystone Day is the day that teaches the week how to behave. You pick one day, often Monday or Wednesday, where you run a concentrated, faithful version of your system. It has 5 elements: the golden hour, the peak pair, the play wedge, the clean collab, and the close. The golden hour is your first hour, no feeds, morning light, water, 2-minute landing, and your first wheel. The peak pair is 2 back-to-back units on your highest triaged project, with a white wall walk between. The play wedge is a deliberately light 15 to 30 minutes after the pair where you stare at sky, walk, or read one page that feeds your lattice. The clean collab is a 60-90-minute plateau cluster where you use signal first, ask and baton pass to unblock others, batch decisions and leave a trail. The close is a shutdown script plus a 15-minute tilt review. Retriage, write 2 now lines, for tomorrow, run the identity integration loop aloud. Run 1 Keystone day each week, and the rest of your days will find the groove faster because your nervous system gets a weekly masterclass in your own rhythm. An office story with a ridiculous calendar. Juno led a product org of 40 and felt like her week owned her. She declared Wednesday's Keystone. Golden hour, phone in kitchen, water, light, wheel, peak pair, write the strategy memos, spine in 2 units. Play wedge, 10-minute sun patch plus tea. Clean collab, a 75-minute block titled Unblock Squad. She answered yellows, sent baton passes with availability, and pasted final frames onto specs. Close tilt review 15 plus identity loop. The rest of the week still had fires, but Wednesdays became a reservoir. Her team learned that after Wednesday afternoon, decisions appeared and their blocks dissolved. Her chest stopped buzzing, her output got brave. Brave work is not born from panic. It is born from a day that holds. Body check, let your shoulder blades slide down and back. Unclench the jaw and allow the teeth to meet softly. Notice the skin at your temples, a faint coolness. Feel your ribs widen sideways on the inhale and the slight weight at your belly on the exhale. This is what keepable feels like. We'll add one final micro-practice that syncs identity with action, the nameplate. You write a 6-word identity on a card and set it on your dock each morning before your first wheel. Calm builder of finished things, clear mind, kind pace, crisp output, steady hands, brave choices, clean lines. You don't chant it, you let it look at you. The RAS likes names. When the old narrator tries to hand you someone else's name, procrastinator, overwhelmed, perfectionist, you glance at the plate and run the wheel. Identity is not an argument. It's a daily name you grow into by moving your hands. You'll also install the yearline, a once-a-quarter ritual that compresses this book into a single page. Draw a horizontal line across a blank sheet. Mark the next 3 months. Under each month, write the beam for that month, one phrase. Below it, 3 compounding tens for core, support, soil. On the back, write your drop list, projects you will not touch with review dates. Take a photo. Pin the sheet above your dock. Your week listens to your day listens to your wheel, your month listens to your yearline. That's how drift becomes direction. A story of a quiet hotel desk. Matteo traveled 2 weeks a month as a consultant. Hotels made his brain feel like a snow globe, pretty shaken. He drew a yearline in January, beam, publish case library, tens, cadence drills, ask snippet, consistent light. He taped a small copy to his laptop. In airports, he ran one wheel. Start clean with a breath in the boarding area, sprint small with a 25-minute outline, ship something by sending a baton pass, savor briefly while staring at the runway. By March, the case library existed. His travel didn't get nobler, his attention did. Taste water and let it sit neutral on your tongue. Notice a subtle warmth at your sternum when you picture a Wednesday that trains the week. Hear the faintest mid-frequency hum that always lives in buildings. These are anchors. They let you feel the room while you choose the move. There's one final science note to help you trust what you're building. Neuroplasticity is specificity plus repetition under safe load. Every time you pair a clear cue with a small finish and a brief savor, you lay myelin on the exact circuit that turns intention into output. Over weeks, this myelination makes the path feel downhill. Motivation becomes less necessary because friction is lower. This is why discipline feels kinder over time. You're not getting tougher, you're reducing skid. The Keystones need a boundary with the world that won't always care. Use the halo promise. When someone asks for your Keystone Day afternoon, you say, I protect Wednesday to keep the team's work moving. I'll have decisions by 3 p.m. if urgent, tag red. Otherwise, I'll reply at 3:15. You keep the promise for 3 weeks. People learn that your halo produces artifacts that help them. They stop asking you to turn off the light that guides their boats. Another story in a house where life is loud. Sana worked 2 jobs and cared for her dad. Keystone Day sounded like fiction. She made Saturday morning her Keystone half, golden hour, 1 peak unit, small play, then errands. She taped her nameplate, steady hands, warm heart, clear move. Week by week, her certification project advanced. She didn't wait for perfect. She planted a weekly flag. The flag changed the village of her week. A final drill to bind it all, the 12-minute reset. When a day buckles, set 12 minutes. Minute 02, 2-minute landing. Minutes 27, 1 sprint small with a micro-entry. Minute 78, ugly pass plus QA or baton pass. Minute 89, savor briefly, hand to sternum, name 1 specific move. Minute 9:12, shut down script for the block you just advanced and a quick frame to the stakeholder if needed. 12 minutes is too small for heroics and big enough for identity. Run it once and the day becomes salvageable. Run it twice and the day becomes a win disguised as a mess. Pause, smooth your forehead with an invisible hand. Let your eyes soften to the edge of the room, then land sharply on a single fiber of paper or pixel on the screen. Feel your sit bones even, your jaw soft, your breath longer out than in. This is you, here, body and beam. You don't need more apps. You need faithfulness to rails you already have. Breath, a 7-word target, a boundary, a wheel, a day that trains the week, a plate that names who you are becoming. You will still wobble. You will still forget. You will still have weeks when you get sick or lose someone or sit in a parking lot and stare. When those come, you will still be able to place 1 stone, then another, because you chose a path made of returns, not of moods. One last story. A year from now, you will sit at a different desk, or the same one at a different hour, with a different weather system inside. You'll touch the dock's small dot and feel a warmth rise at the center of your chest. You'll run 2-minute landing and whisper 3 tags that have become familiar friends: calm, precise, patient. Your hands will begin before the old doubts find their costumes. Halfway through, your phone will light. You'll pay the temptation tax and return. Near the end, the perfection itch will scratch. You'll write V2 and ship anyway. You will stand, look 10 meters away, and feel something like gratitude settle in your ribs. Not because you are special, because you have kept tiny promises in a row long enough to become someone you trust. Identity shift for the last time and the first. You are not a distracted person trying to borrow focus. You are a focused person training your world to match your inside. You are not the weather. You are the awareness that watches the weather and pilots through it, breath by breath, line by line, day by day. You build a flywheel. You tend a garden. You finish what matters. You rest on purpose. You carry a plate with your name on it and live into it until it is simply true. Close your eyes for one breath. See the next artifact you will ship: a file saved, a message sent, a page printed. Feel the quiet weight in your chest, as if a small warm stone has been placed there by a friend who believes in you. Open your eyes, write your 7-word target, touch the desk, enter the field, turn the wheel.